1 minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming on YouTube. 855-212-4CBS is the number to jump on in. 855-212-4227, and you could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Got Pat Boyle and Stuart Kovacs rocking and rolling with me all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. So we had two Monday Night Football games last night to conclude Week 14 of the NFL season. Personally, I didn't like that we had two games going on at once, and I even have like a nice TV setup, got two TVs in one room in my New York City apartment, so I was able to watch both of those games. But on one of the TVs, you had the sensational story of Tommy Cutlets in Tommy DeVito, as this kid who's 25 years old, the quarterback of the Giants, still lives at home with his parents, and now is the talk of the New York sports scene, and even getting a lot of national love, like on this show. And you had the up and down play, the tale of two halves with the Green Bay Packers, where the Packers defense comes up small after getting the lead, and you allowed Tommy DeVito to cook up his special sauce on the field. So that was one storyline. The other, though, was maybe one of the worst choke jobs we've seen of this NFL season. And even Pat Boyle said this the other day. You know, Tennessee was a smart gambling play. You know, you plus them on the big number because Mike Vrabel is a heck of a coach. They have some pop offensively with Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins. And Will Levis, you know, he kind of reminds me a lot of like Carson Wentz, where he's a risk taker. You could see some of the ability. You could see some of the natural talent. But through the flow of a 60-minute game, there's going to be some special moments, and then there's going to be some moments where he couldn't even pitch the ball correctly to Derrick Henry, and it's fumbled and it's turned into a touchdown as Miami a few plays later was able to cash it in. Or even right early on in the game where he somehow threw a pick six to a big defensive lineman, which, don't get me wrong, I love a fat guy touchdown. There's nothing more exciting in sports than a large fella scoring a touchdown, but that was not a good play by Will Levis. But I look back from that game last night, and my two biggest takeaways is Tyreek Hill displayed why he's the MVP of the league, and then also the Miami Dolphins continue to show you why, even though they have a record that indicates they're a contender, they're really a pretender. Because Miami this year, after 14 weeks, they only have one win up against a team that is currently above 500. And that was their big-time 70-point performance beatdown up against the Denver Broncos, I believe back in September. But you see them in some of these bigger games, and last night wasn't a big game they were expected to win, and they're up 14 points with 3 minutes to go, and they become the first team this century to lose a game in regulation despite being up 14 points with less than 3 minutes to play. Like, that's how historically bad since 2001 that performance was for Miami last night and that choke job. But Miami this year against the Eagles couldn't put together a great effort. Against Kansas City, driving late, Tua has a chance to tie up the game. We all know the back-to-back plays where it was a severe underthrow, and then the next play, he fumbled the snap. They got their doors blown off by the Buffalo Bills back earlier in the season when Miami was starting to pick up some momentum. So they don't have a signature win this season. They don't have a win that makes me say, okay, come playoff time, this team's going to be able to get the job done in 3 playoff games to get to the Super Bowl. Like, they still have a chance to get a bye. They could have controlled the inside track last night, but they blew the game with 3 minutes to go when they were up by 14 points. And it was tough for me to move off of that Kansas City game in Germany. And we talked about this numerous times where Tua Tagovailoa had those 2 poor plays back-to-back with the game on the line. And I'm cognizant of the fact that Tua is having a good season. But sometimes when you have not been living up to your draft pick, when unfortunately injuries played a role last year and everyone was counting you out, people like to take immediate victories when something looks like it's building in a positive direction. And they like to drag people that doubted Tua. And I'm not saying Tua's a bad quarterback, but this idea that Tua is one of the most feared quarterbacks in the league and that he's an elite quarterback, I don't care what the stats say, it's a bunch of utter nonsense. He's good. He's solid. But he doesn't fear you like Tyreek Hill fears you. And Tyreek Hill, and you should fear Tyreek Hill. And when he gets hurt in the game last night, and Tyreek Hill goes down in the first quarter, towards the end of the first quarter, what did that offense do? And yeah, Tyreek Hill gets back in the game, and the only reason he got back in the game was because his wife basically said, man up and get back in the game if you want to come home tonight. And he goes back into the game, but you knew that Tyreek Hill was not his normal self. And last night, even when gifted a 14-point lead with 3 minutes to go, gifted a pick six, gifted a stupid boneheaded play by Tennessee where they fumbled the ball on a pitch to Derrick Henry, and they also muffed the punt, you still couldn't find a way to win the game. And that's alarming to me. And it further just shows you that Miami, they may have the record of a contender, but they're not a team that I trust in a year where, quite frankly, who the heck do you trust in the AFC? Because whenever you start to trust a team, whenever they start to enter your circle of trust, they lose the game. All right, this goes for every team this year in the AFC. They lose the game in embarrassing fashion, and you're left with your jaw hitting the floor saying, what the heck just happened? But last night for Miami, in a isolated, or sort of an isolated window, because I know we had the 2 Monday Night Football games, but in a primetime spot with a lot of people watching, I don't want to say that they could only lose, but they win that game. It's not like we walk away singing the praises of the Miami Dolphins. But it's how they lost that game. And it's not just blowing the lead with 3 minutes to go when you're up by 14, but it's showing you that the quarterback probably doesn't have a ceiling of greatness in the NFL. And his ceiling is probably just being a good quarterback that could win double-digit games, but he's not someone that I'm going to feel great about to carry a team and lead a team if Tyreek Hill is hurt. And also, his awareness last night was awful. And I get it, the offensive line did not play well last night, but how many times was Tyreek Hill, or was Tua Tagovailoa in that pocket, and he almost walked into a sack, or he tripped over his own offensive lineman, or just stumbled on the turf. You know, the turf monsters were a real thing last night. And you look at the offensive production, because you may say, oh, Zach, you're being too harsh. And if you didn't really watch the game, they scored nearly 30 points. There were 3 touchdowns for Miami last night. And the 3 touchdowns, one was a defensive score. The other 2 were from Raheem Mostert. And they were both set up in great field position because of dumb plays and mistakes made by Tennessee. So I look at that Miami team last night, and for most of the year, I've been saying these things. I've been saying they're a pretender. They're a team that will win double-digit games. Heck, I picked them before the start of the season to win the AFC East. So you can't call me a hater. You can't say I don't believe in this team. But expectations change. And before the start of the season, a lot of people are like, wow, I can't believe Gelb is taking the Miami Dolphins to win the AFC East. But when you have Buffalo struggling, when Aaron Rodgers goes down 4 plays into the season, when the Patriots suck this year, just winning the AFC East is not good enough. And you never know when you're going to be in this position with also what appears to be such an easy road. You know, the best team right now in the AFC is Baltimore. Kansas City struggling. The Bills struggling. The Bengals don't have Joe Burrow. Deshaun Watson out for the season. Justin Herbert out for the season. Like, you go through these AFC teams, Rodgers done for the season. It's right there for the taking. And Miami could be that team that gets to the Super Bowl this year, right? Like, they have enough offense where they should be able to outscore a lot of teams. But in big games and big moments this year, this team hasn't showed up. This team didn't deliver up against the Bills. This team didn't deliver up against the Chiefs. This team didn't deliver up against the Eagles. And I'll say it once again, they only have 1 win right now with the team through 14 weeks that is currently above 500, and it's the Broncos, who were god-awful when they played them. Right? They got off to a 1-5 start, Denver. And I just don't believe this year, and I just can't envision this year, that you're going to see Tua Tagovailoa in a Super Bowl, because your quarterback needs to make big plays. And it was damaging when you go back to Germany and when you go up against Kansas City and you had the severe underthrow and then you fumble the snap. Like, that was the lasting image for me on this Dolphins season so far. But last night, historically bad loss, a severe choke job, and once Tyreek Hill leaves the game, and I know he came back, you saw who the most important player is, not only on the Dolphins, but who's the most valuable player in football this year. And that's Tyreek Hill. And Tua, to no surprise, looks like an extremely different quarterback without Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is what gets that machine going in Miami. And when he's not at 100%, or when he's not able to get on the field, that team does not spark fear in my eyes. And that's a problem. Because, right, you got Boy Wonder, the genius, in Mike McDaniel. You got Tyreek Hill out of the game. Tua Tagovailoa. All these Dolphins fans want to tell me how great Tua is. Tua's good. He's solid. But great quarterbacks last night find a way to win that game, especially with how many times they were gifted good field position and how many mistakes Tennessee made. And it's amazing how lost Tua Tagovailoa looked last night in what's been a good year for him. And that offense, quite frankly, was brutal. It was terrible last night. And that's on McDaniel, and that's on Tua. And I know usually in sports, you don't win the MVP this way. Because how many years do we sit here and we go, oh, this player's injured, this player's hurt, he's showing why he's the MVP. That's not how the MVP is won. But in a year where the MVP candidates are underwhelming, like, yeah, Dak's having a good season. Brock Purdy's having a good season. Lamar Jackson is playing some good football right now. But in a year where there's no quarterback that I love for the MVP, and this is not a new take for me, I've been saying this for 4 or 5 weeks. My 2 MVP choices, number 1 would be Tyreek, And then number 2 would be run CMC with Christian McCaffrey. And there was a little bit for a while you could make the case for Myles Garrett and TJ Watt because of how they're carrying those defenses and they're carrying that team with no quarterback play. But a defensive player is probably not going to win the award. But you saw it last night. Tyreek Hill, not 100%. Tyreek Hill in and out of the lineup. All you Dolphins fans that are like, up, 2 is great. Up, 2 is this. Up, 2 is elite. The 2 and on coming after me. And Tua Tagovailoa up. Let's stake the flag in the ground. And let's say how he's a top 5 quarterback in the league. He looked the farthest thing from a top 5 quarterback last night. He didn't even look like a top 10 quarterback last night. That is just brutal. Really, really a brutal loss. So my biggest takeaway, and my 2 biggest takeaways from the game last night, Tyreek Hill should be the MVP. And then also the Miami Dolphins, they are just not ready in a year where it could actually be the easiest road ever in the AFC to get to a Super Bowl. That team cannot be trusted in the big moments. And I'm telling you, too, the Jalen Phillips loss is massive for Miami. I know people won't have that take tonight, but I said this in the last month or 2 with Jalen Phillips, and I know that he had the injury on Black Friday up against the Jets with the Achilles injury, but I was even saying this before the Achilles injury. They need him to be what Hassan Reddick has been the last 2 years for the Eagles if Miami was going to go to the level that they were going to go. But after last night, Phillips is not coming back this year. We'll see moving forward when Tyreek can get back to 100%. Miami displayed their deficiencies. Oh, yeah, by the way, it's not like it's just me crushing them after losing a game to what was a really good team. Tennessee's not a good team. They've been underwhelming this year. They've been disappointing this year. And here we are with a big-time disappointment performance last night from the Dolphins. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Where's your belief level in the Miami Dolphins this year, and also who should win the NFL MVP? We'll take a break. When we come on back, do you believe in Jordan Love? I'll give you my answer on that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
Everyone in America was hyping up the Lions before the start of the season. And I said I would not be shocked if they missed the playoffs. I thought they would just be a wild card team if they make the playoffs. Not only do I think they'll win their first playoff game since 1991, I could see them winning multiple playoff games. Dan Campbell is a stud. Dan Campbell is a great coach, and I don't use that word very freely and very often.
Here's Zach Gelb.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Man, I was just about to praise Pat Boyle, and then he plays this Lions rejoin that I had. And the Lions, like 2 out of the last 3 weeks, or ever since Thanksgiving, have been a disaster. So maybe we should trash that take. But I don't run from my wrong takes, my wrong predictions. But anyway, I do have to say a happy birthday to Pat Boyle today. How you doing, Pat Boyle?
I'm great, Gelb. Thanks, brother. Appreciate that, man.
Can you give me a little, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing? You want me to be like Sean Stellato, Tommy DeVito's agent here?
How about that? The chicken cutlets, baby.
Dude, that was phenomenal. That is every, us here in New York City / New Jersey, me a Jersey guy. That's like a dream come true to see literally somebody come off the street like Tommy DeVito did. And to perform the way he's performing for the Giants, it's a dream come true. And you see his family in the stands, kissing one another, going nuts.
Well, that was my favorite part of it, actually. So, we've heard the name Tom. Like, if you're a college football fan, you've heard the name Tommy DeVito, whether he was at Syracuse or Illinois. Like, you knew who he was. But no one ever thought this dude was going to play and start games and win games in the NFL. And this is an undrafted free agent who got more money. I heard his agent this morning on CBS Sports Network with Boomer and Gio. He had more money offered to him to join the Commanders, but he picked the Giants. This dude still lives in New Jersey. He grew up in New Jersey. He's 25 years old. And, I'm not telling information that no one knows, but the guy lives with his parents still. And before the game last night, all right, big event. He's won 2 games, starting to become big talk, big deal. In a small scale, right? Like, I don't know how much there was a national appeal to Tommy DeVito until last night. And before the game starts, This dude's family is serving up 300 chicken cutlets in the parking lot. So I love that. And then you see this agent on the sideline playing the role, right? A proud Italian. He's in the pinstripe suit. He's got the fedora. He looked like he was a character on Sopranos. He looked like Silvio Dante for crying out loud. And then Tommy DeVito, game right, is right there. Packers, Jordan Love, give him credit after not having the best performance. Matriculates the ball down the field, gets the ball in the end zone. And DeVito doesn't blink, goes right on the field, makes a big throw to Wan'Dale Robinson, I believe it was, down the right sideline. And good to see a receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson, who's a speedster from Kentucky. Last year had the injury, is starting to make some plays for the Giants. And the next thing you know, Randy Bullock, who's packing on a few pounds, man, him and Zion Williamson. I could say this is a big fella. They look like they're going to the same buffets together. Randy Bullock kicks the game-winning field goal. But throughout the game, when you had this DeVito story just growing and getting, to an exponential level of just craziness, they keep on panning to his dad, who his dad I absolutely love, right? His dad's a big, burly Italian guy, and he's doing the Italian hand signals and all of that. And the agent gets a kiss from the dad, and the agent kisses the father back. And then I guess that's Tommy DeVito's brother who was next to him.
Yeah.
He knows, right? Because the dad doesn't know, like, social media, right? Everyone has a dad. My dad has, like, no clue what's going to go viral on social media. The agent, I think he knew what he was doing last night. But the brother of Tommy DeVito sitting there when the dad goes to lean in for a kiss right on the cheek. And he was like, oh, Dad, get the heck away from me. But that was really cool. And my agent, actually, his son is the marketing rep. Not the guy that you saw in the pinstripe suit, but he's one of the marketing reps for DeVito. And I'm watching the game, and I see my agent, Mark Lepselter, and his son Max right next to all these guys. So it was a pretty cool story last night to see it unfold. And that's just why you love sports, because, like, movie writers couldn't even come up with this. A 25-year-old undrafted kid that lives with his mother and his father, right? The mom still serves him up chicken cutlets, which I think if you took some blood out of Tommy DeVito right now, it would only be chicken cutlets and how much we talk about the chicken cutlets. And here he is with Daniel Jones hurt, all the other stuff. And Tyrod Taylor, I know he's now back on the active roster, but he was hurt as well. DeVito gets an opportunity, and he takes off and is running with this. It's very similar, and it reminds me a lot. And I was texting this to a few people last night. It reminds me of the Jeremy Lin story with Linsanity. How that overtook New York City for like a month or so? Month and a half? And I'm not saying Tommy DeVito turns out to be this great player, but this is a story. I know we're on a bunch of stations in Wisconsin today, and I love the Packers. But this is a story where if you're not a Packers fan, like last night, you're just a neutral observer of the game, and you see this Italian kid on the field with this agent that's playing the role and his father that looks like he's like about to pop out of tears of joy. It's a wonderful story. And it's an underdog story, and it's a really damn cool story that we got to see last night. Now, long-term picture for the Giants, they're winning some more games that they weren't expected to. They're starting to slowly move down that draft board. They're not going to be in contention for Caleb Williams. They're not going to be in contention for Drake May, who just announced that he's leaving UNC, won't play in the bowl game, and he's going to start preparing for the NFL draft. So there's a good chance that Daniel Jones is going to be back as the Giants starting quarterback next year. And I think that's a problem for the Giants. And I'll give Daniel Jones credit. Last year, with nothing around him, he played well. They had to pay him. But I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be this consistently really good, successful quarterback in the NFL. But this story, this Tommy DeVito, is one of my favorite stories of the season. It really is. Because I love an improbable story that is centered around food, family, and football. And that's the Tommy DeVito story. Eat some chicken cutlets with his parents before the game. Then you see him rock MetLife Stadium last night on that final drive. And after the game, he got his family hugging and kissing. And it's a really cool, from a human standpoint, it's a story that is very easy. And I'm not a Giant fan, but it's very easy to root for this kid and see how far he takes it. And eventually, right, his special sauce that he's cooking up on the field, it's gonna run out. Like, I don't expect this guy to go on and be the guy for the next 4, 5, 10 years of the Giants. But as long as this continues in a year where there's been no reason to talk about the Giants because they've been a disappointment, and I expected them to regress because they overachieved last year. But now it's like, all right, you got a story for the final 4 weeks of the season to see what this kid can do moving forward. And bare minimum, he's playing himself to being a backup quarterback and probably have a little more of a lucrative contract somewhere else next year, even if it doesn't go down the path of him becoming a regular starter in the NFL. Now, on the flip side, I think a lot of people today are going to slam Jordan Love. And a lot of people today are going to say, Jordan Love is not that dude. He's not that guy for the Green Bay Packers. I think it's important to remember that Jordan Love, even though he's been in the league for a few years, this is his first true year as a starting quarterback. Not everyone could be Lamar Jackson, first true year as a starter, win a unanimous MVP. Or Patrick Mahomes, first true year as a starter, wins the MVP and throws for 50 passing touchdowns. Those situations, those performances that we saw from Lamar and that we also saw from not only Lamar but Patrick Mahomes, those are anomalies. Those are something that you usually and rarely ever see someone be able to master the NFL their first true season starting. So for Jordan Love, guy was on a 3-game win streak, had a great performance up against the Kansas City Chiefs, and last night it was up and down. And that's just a natural roller coaster ride when you have a young quarterback in this league. There's going to be moments where he could take down the Chargers, the Lions, and the Chiefs. 3 really good wins. And then there will be moments when you're going up against a Giant team that doesn't have a lot of life, that doesn't have a lot of energy around them headed into the game last night, that's not viewed as a good team, where you drop a game that you're not supposed to. But even with the ups and downs, Love still made some big third down plays, and he gave them the lead at the end of the game. Like, when I look back at that game last night, sure, it's easy because what we do is we dumb it down in really sports talk, and we only talk about quarterbacks and we only talk about coaches. Like, after every game, 9.9 times out of 10, the conversation is all, what did this coach do? What did this quarterback do? What did this coach do well? What did this quarterback do well? What did this quarterback do in a bad way? What did this coach do in a bad way? But my takeaway from last night is, even with some of the ups and downs by Jordan Love, he did enough to put his team in a position to win, and the defense couldn't find a way to keep Tommy DeVito out of field goal range. Like, Tommy DeVito, who most people didn't even know who the heck he was before last night, quickly moved that ball down the field. And within seconds, they were in field goal range. So this idea that Jordan Love is going to get all the criticism today, I think it's nonsense. And this is what I'll say to Packers fans too. How many years did I sit here when Aaron Rodgers would lose a big game and you would blame every other person besides Aaron Rodgers? And now today we're going to blame Jordan Love in a game where, even though he didn't play his best, he still got a touchdown pass late to put the team up. You got to rip the defense. You have to rip the defense, because that defense couldn't stop a true rookie in Tommy DeVito. And I don't care how great the DeVito story is and how much we just praised it and all that stuff. That defense, in an opportunity to really separate yourself a little bit in the NFC in that crazy wild card hunt, you had a good chance to do that. You had a good chance to get to your 7th win of the season, and you blew it. And now you're 6-7. And you look at the NFC right now, sure, Niners 10-3, Cowboys 10-3, Eagles 10-3, Lions 9-4. But after that, Vikings 7-6, Buccaneers 6-7, Green Bay 6-7, Rams 6-7, Seahawks 6-7, Falcons 6-7, Saints 6-7, and the Giants, I guess, are still alive, and the Bears holding on to their last breaths, but they're at 5-8. And both those teams are coming off victories, where the Bears beat the Lions and the Giants just beat the Packers. So Green Bay doesn't make the playoffs, let's just say. They'll go back to last night and their defense letting them down. And their schedule's favorable the rest of the way. Like, it's not the toughest teams ever. You play Tampa Bay, Panthers stink. You play Minnesota, who doesn't have a quarterback, and then you play the Bears. You got to find a way. What? 9 wins probably gets you in? 9? You know, can we have a wild card team? I know we had a division winner last year, 8-9. Can we have a division? Can we have a wild card team, though, at 8-9? But when you look at that schedule, you needed to win 3 more games. And you blew one last night because your defense couldn't find a way to get the job done. Anthony in Myrtle Beach, next up on CBS Sports Radio, 855-212-4CBS. Ant, what's happening?
What's going on, Zach, my man? How you feeling today, brother?
Doing fantastic. I'm feeling like $1 million. I'm feeling like I could eat some chicken cutlets right now, if I'm being honest with you.
Yes, sir. I mean, come on. How do you not love that story? I'm over here with Tommy Cullers went around with the Italian purse. What that means, he's saying, like, what do you want from me? Like, what do you want to do? That's what that gesture means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And right now, if you don't like it, try to stop it. And this kid right now is playing himself in a better position than anyone could have ever imagined.
That's right. Go Tommy Cullers and go Titans. Come on. We knew that was happening.
Pat Boyle did. I'll give credit to Pat Boyle. And I usually, Pat Boyle, I kind of look at him like he's like a little brother to me a little bit. When you have a little brother relationship, you like to jab at your little brother, but then if anybody else pokes fun at your little brother, you smack the other person over their cabeza. So I always make fun of Pat because I always see him post his gambling and his winnings. But he never post the picks before they're made. Like, it's always like, oh, look at me. I hit this insane 10-leg parlay to win like $15,000 or something like that from Pat Boyle. So I said to Boyle last night, give me a few picks and put them out on Twitter. And Boyle went 2 for 2. He bet $86.08. Well, your funds low. And he won $386.03. He had Tennessee on an alt spread. That's how you know he's a degenerate when you make an alt spread of plus 17.5. Derrick Henry, anytime touchdown, which you were both on. And then he had to sweat it out at the end. Dolphins under 30.5. Winner. The other Boyle pick was Tennessee plus 20.5, the Titans. And then the Giants plus 10.5. And that was $156.65 to win 300. What's up with your bizarre numbers here?
It's the OCD that I have. I wanted, when you see like what it would pay out, the total payout, I wanted it to be, for the first one, 86 to win 386. So it was $300. So
okay.
That's why I was like, 8 cents got it to the 386. And then the next one, I wanted it so that the winnings were 300 even.
Gotcha.
So that's why you get the cents being bet in there.
By the way, I looked at my total winnings for the last 2 years using an app. I just saw that that's a feature that you could see. I was surprised. How much do you think I was down, by the way?
Down over the last 2 years?
Yeah. And I had a historically bad gambling season last year.
Okay, so over the last 2 years, let's say you're down $1,000.
No, I was only down $11.06.
Wow.
I was shocked. Now, anytime touchdowns, I've done a really good job. That's been my saving grace. But
you're playing 500 ball, baby.
But the spread picks have been terrible. So, some may say, I go win a few more games. I could be the new Tommy Cutlets here.
Oh, you put out the challenge for me yesterday, bro. So I told you.
You aced it.
Both teams would keep it close, and Derrick Henry would score. Shame for you. I know you had that big parlay where Romeo Dobbs had that touchdown.
Get another foot down. We're good at plus 670. Oh, he killed me, Romeo Dobbs. What a disgrace. Get the second foot down, dummy. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We come on back. What does the Shohei Ohtani deferrals mean for Major League Baseball? We'll get into that. Update time first. Here is the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
And this report is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, AV, or ATV, RV, boat, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at Progressive.com. A dismal season for the Chargers will end without Justin Herbert. The quarterback had surgery for his broken finger and is done, so it'll be Easton Stick the rest of the way. Riley Leonard, one of the top transfers in the portal, will finish his collegiate career as the quarterback at Notre Dame. Leonard was 13-8. He's a starter for the Blue Devils, but missed time this year with a toe injury. The Timberwolves lead the West at 17-5. Then there are 3 games that separate the teams that are 2nd through 9th. Denver is bunched in that group, currently 4th in the conference at 15-9 after a win in Atlanta last night. And they'll try to build on it tonight when the defending champs face the Bulls in Chicago. The in-season tournament champs are back at it for the first time since Saturday's win to claim the first title in the unique event. The Lakers are in Dallas Both have won their last 3. Veteran righty Seth Lugo reportedly signs a 3-year deal with the Royals. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio's JR Sport Brief Show is your go-to December destination for the best sports talk on the radio. And don't forget, we're live 24/7 on social media, YouTube, SiriusXM Channel 158, and the free Odyssey app.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
Jacksonville is kind of the team where if you want to equate it to a freshman quarterback, that's a 4-5-star recruit in college, and there's so much expectation, there's so much buzz, there's so much hype. And then you get him on the field and you go, yeah, that quarterback is too young. That quarterback is not ready to play. And that's what you're seeing right now with the entirety of the team in the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Here's Zach Gelb.
The Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the Armed Forces, DoD veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. How about Minnesota Vikings linebacker Ivan Pace Jr.? The rookie racked up a game-high 13 tackles in addition to a sack and a pass breakup that he sealed the win over the Raiders. With an interception in the final 2 minutes as the Vikings defense posted a shutout in a very memorable 3-0 victory in favor of the Vikings that did torture Stuart Kovacs with his Las Vegas Raiders. Alrighty, let's get to a little Shohei Ohtani right now. So usually in sports, the financing and the finances of sports does not really resonate with me. I sometimes think the finances of sports makes for really boring radio, and I like to do a show where I think about the listener. And it's not just what I want to talk about, but I think it's what the listeners want to hear about. And a lot of times when you talk about finances and you hear people talk about all these millions and millions and millions of dollars that these billionaires are spending, it sounds a lot of like blah, blah, blah to me. But the Shohei Ohtani one is fascinating to me. And I think the reaction that many people have is one that I don't really get. So there's one thing to say what the Dodgers are doing is unfair. But I've seen in the last 24 hours since these details have been announced, and Bob Nightingale had it, that Ohtani will annually defer a stunning $68 million of his $70 million salary. We all know the 10-year contract, $700 million. And the deferred payments will start in 10 years. One executive said it lowers the Dodgers' competitive balance tax to $46 million a year. And Nightingale says this was Ohtani's idea. Persons close to him do say. So I've seen in the last 24, 48 hours or so, since this story's gotten some life, a lot of people are like, Ohtani's now unlikable. Ohtani's now becoming a villain. And people are shredding Ohtani for deferring these payments. And they're saying, this doesn't make sense from a financial standpoint. Whether it does or doesn't, I don't care. But when did people start ripping athletes for, I don't want to say taking less money, but putting the team in a better situation financially to go get other players? Because Shohei Ohtani, he cares about winning first and foremost. Like Ohtani, he's not irrelevant. That's not the right word, because he's the biggest name in the sport. He's the biggest attraction in the sport. But Ohtani was kind of like living his life with the Angels. And every time you go on the road, you have so many fans that would be in the building to just see Shohei Ohtani. He's one of one. He's made such a big impact. But he was kind of left alone, even though we talked about him a lot. But he was kind of left alone with the Angels. But this guy's a winner. This guy wants to win. And he was in the Angels organization for 5-6 years. And just like they did with Mike Trout, at least they made the playoffs once with Mike Trout. He had that quick 3-game sweep. But they never made the playoffs with Ohtani and Trout together. So Ohtani in this free agency went about it in a way where it was a big story. It was a highly coveted story, but there wasn't a lot of daily updates. Like the only real update we ever had was a few days before the signing took place and the announcement, where it appeared that he was potentially going to Toronto. And then John Morosi got the story wrong, and he wasn't on a flight to Toronto. And the big feeling, right, at the All-Star game, I would say, was probably Dodgers, Dodgers, Dodgers. And it ended up being the Dodgers, but there wasn't a lot of fanfare with his decision as he posted the Dodgers logo on Instagram, and it wasn't to have all this really like pomp and circumstance and, oh, look at me and this and that. So it's funny to me where how many times we'll slam a player for being too public, for being too outspoken, for making it too much about him. But then when a player doesn't want to make it about him, when he tried to keep his lips sealed all throughout this process, and then the numbers come out and it's like, whoa, $700 million, a contract of 10 years? Wow. And then you find out, well, he's actually deferring $68 million of that each and every year, and it's going to lower the competitive balance tax to $46 million a year. I don't get some of the outcry from people that are they turning on Ohtani? Because, I'm in a group chat with my buddies, and a lot of them are like, oh, Ohtani's now a villain. Oh, I'm not rooting for Ohtani. But your frustration shouldn't be directed at Ohtani. It should be directed at Major League Baseball and that this is allowed. Because to save this much money on the deferred payments and to have the CBT only be $46 million a year, that's not Ohtani's fault. That's not Ohtani's problem. There was a problem in the system, and if this allows the Dodgers to still get Yamamoto or to go get another pitcher, and they need pitching. They need healthy pitching too. But I don't crush Ohtani for this because this guy wants to win. And yeah, he'll go make $40, $50 million a year now in endorsements. So go make your $40, $45, $50 million in endorsements now. You'll still get $2 million a year from the Dodgers. And then 10 years from now, you're going to have so much money that you're going to continue to get in even when your playing days are over. So, Stu, like, you're a big baseball fan. I know Boyle is as well. Does this deferred payments by Ohtani, does it make you change the way that you view Ohtani? Because I was surprised by my friends, how they're like, I don't like Ohtani. I don't like how he went about this. And I just don't understand that side of the argument, because your problem should be with Major League Baseball, how this is allowed, because Ohtani is trying to put the Dodgers in the best position with already some all-time greats and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. Now you have Ohtani. And as long as they get the right pitching, he's just trying to win something he's never done so far in his career on a baseball diamond in America with Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. And the first reaction I had wasn't like outrage at the Dodgers. How are they doing this? How are they skirting the rules? My first reaction is, oh, wow. Ohtani, at least for now, and look, he's going to make a ton of money in endorsements, so it's not like, oh, poor Ohtani, making $2 million a year. But my first reaction was, oh, wow, he's actually taking less right now for the Dodgers to have a better chance of winning a World Series, which is what he wants to do. What he has not had in his time with the Angels, the 5 years he's been there, 5 or 6 years he's been there. Now he has the chance to do that because he's taking less money, and now they can have more players. That was my first reaction, not, Dodgers, what are they doing?
Pat, how about you? Where do you lie on this? Because usually financials, they bore me in the sports conversation, but I really do think a lot of the conversations the last 2 days have just been ridiculous with this.
I don't blame Shohei Ohtani. This is like what you dream for every athlete on your team to want to do. Like Tom Brady with the Patriots taking lesser deals. Shohei Ohtani saying, "Hey, I'll take $2 million a year for now. Even though I'm, you're
eventually going to get the $700 million.
It's going to be 70. It's going to be $700 million because he knows he's going to get hundreds of millions in advertisements in Japan and both here in the States and across the world. Really, he's an international superstar at this point. And I'm not mad at the Dodgers either for doing it. Because
that's smart.
It gives them a chance to win. What I'm mad at is Rob Manfred, like usual. Yeah. Clown Rob Manfred and the collective bargaining agreement that has allowed for this to happen. From now on, I saw a tweet, I forget who tweeted it, but I was along the same lines of what I was thinking. Whatever the average dollars per year that you're paying somebody, $700 million across 10 years, $70 million, that is the cap. That should be the cap hit every single year. Not, we're going to defer payment and it's only 46 so we can still spend and we don't have to go over luxury tax. No, you're giving them $700 across 10 years. It's $70 million a hit every single year.
I agree.
That's what's fair.
No, I 100% agree with you. And I also love when you take a shot at Rob Manfred because I get tired in taking all these shots at Rob Manfred.
I know my audience.
Yeah, you're not wrong with that. And the commissioner is not a big fan of me. That has been relayed to me by people that know the commissioner. He heard all the bitching and complaining that I did about him during the pandemic. And we have a mutual friend. And the commissioner made it clear when he found out that that friend knows me that he is not the biggest fan of yours truly. So, Rob, if you're listening, how you doing? How you doing, Rob? I'm sure he's probably already crapping his pants, Rob Manfred, just the thought of having to hand out another commissioner's trophy coming up in October or November. Because whenever that guy does a trophy presentation, it is embarrassing. All righty, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio, AFC Circle of Trust next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, hour number 2 of our radio program. Quick first 60 minutes. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Going to see the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight at Madison Square Garden to go up against my New York Hockey Rangers. I saw the Maple Leafs last night. They lost to the Islanders. And you know what's really embarrassing? I think this is just in-stadium behavior. And maybe the NFL forced this down the Islanders' throats. And usually we wouldn't talk about this on a national radio show, but I saw it last night, and I was like, man, this is a hockey story that I think you could relate to in all of sports. Like, I'm okay with good sportsmanship, but there's some moments where teams go out of a way to thank someone. Where usually it's like, okay, someone plays for a season and then they come on back, and I've seen this in Major League Baseball, they have like a tribute video. And I sit there and I go, even enough highlights for this person to have a tribute video? That used to be a unique honor. That used to be reserved, like a tribute video or asking someone to get off their seats and cheer for someone, for really special legendary players. But now the society that we live in, you got to be a good sport about everything. You got to smack everyone on the butt. You play 3 games, now you get a tribute video. So John Tavares, who is now on the Maple Leafs, and we know is their captain, he got his 1,000th career NHL point last night. Now, that's a tremendous accomplishment. It deserves to be honored. But I don't care if this guy scored the most points ever in the history of the NHL. You can't honor him in the Islanders building with an organization that can't stand his guts in front of those fans that hate him because he was once their leader, their guy, their franchise player, and he dragged them along in the free agency process, and he left them. It would almost be as, let's say, LeBron, in the first year removed from leaving Cleveland to go to Miami, he comes back. I remember how intense that booing was of LeBron James, and he had some legendary moment or some big career accomplishment, and you were like, fans, we like to honor LeBron James for scoring this amount of points, and that's what the Islanders did last night. Now, I'm assuming that was forced by the league. I think the Maple Leafs requested it if it was going to happen. And also, I think the goal where he got the 1,000 point came in. It was late in the third period before they ended up losing the game in overtime. But that's crazy to me. Like, Boyle, you're a passionate sports fan, and you happen to be an Islanders fan. You were rubbing elbows and sucking up to their owner, John Ledecky, at the game the other night when he invited you to the game, which is very nice of him and pretty damn cool. You had to be furious last night, where I understand appreciating history and appreciating something that is pretty impressive, but the matter of where it happens is important. And in that building, and it was an Islanders home game, I don't care what the league mandates. I don't care what the Maple Leafs requests. You can't be having some announcement and some acknowledgement. I know the team emptied off the bench, the Maple Leafs, so there was some delay in the game, but you can't have that occur where your PA announcers get on the stadium scoreboard and saying, all right, everyone, we honor John Tavares with this 1,000th career point, in the history of the NHL. I know he played for you, But those fans hate that guy's guts.
Yeah, I don't get this. We see this across the board, I feel like, the last 2-3 years. And especially, as New Yorkers, we pride ourselves as tough sports fans. Mm-hmm. We boo people that are the best players on the team if they don't perform well.
Yeah.
And I saw the Mets do this a lot last year. I saw the Yankees have done that on social media. Thanking a guy or, honoring John Tavares for his 1,000th career point. He left the Islanders 5 years ago, stabbed them in the back, strung them along in free agency, like you said, and said, see ya, thanks for the memories. And you know what? The Maple Leafs, seeing them finally get out of the first round for the first time, and other than that, it's a first-round exit every single year. Thanks, good for leaving, because the Islanders have had 2 trips to the conference finals since he left. But I don't get it. You don't need to thank somebody, especially back in your home building when you know it's going to get nothing but boos. And maybe that's why John Ledecky and the Islanders did that. Maybe they knew the fans were going to boom and it was going to make for a nice viral moment. I don't know. But you don't need to go out of your way to thank somebody that left your team however many years ago. When somebody underperforms and is terrible and then gets dumped, salary dumped or traded, you don't need to put out a social media message, thank you so-and-so for giving us nothing. I don't get it.
And don't get me wrong, 1,000 career points is a pretty impressive accomplishment. Any of the other hockey teams on the road, Tavares does that against them, they could have that video. They could have that video, got no problem with it. But when it's the team that you leave, and I know that people don't care about hockey the way they do about the NBA, and I say that as someone that likes hockey better than basketball, but I'm realistic, it would be, once again, LeBron leaving Cleveland, then had some big career accomplishment for the Heat in the Cavaliers building, and they took a few seconds to go honor him. You can't do that in that moment. And that was the gripe that I had with it last night.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And luckily the Islanders won the game. Yeah, so now they're starting to get hot here. A couple of big wins in a row. So don't worry, they're coming again. You and your Rangers, you can go to the game tonight and enjoy your Stanley Cup that the team will win in December. Yeah. Because we know once May and June hits, they won't be there.
Yeah, and neither will the Islanders as well, because Boyle likes to walk around the studios and puff out his chest like his team has all these championships. Like, he roots for this great organization. You weren't even like your parents weren't even thinking about, having a little bam chicka wham wham time to create you the last time the Islanders won a Stanley Cup. All right?
I was 12 years after the last one. So
It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. All righty, let's get to a little AFC Circle of Trust. And it is tough to trust teams in the AFC this year, because there right now is only 2 teams in the NFL that are eliminated from playoff contention. Carolina Panthers and then my crappy New England Patriots. But you look at this right now, if the playoffs were to start today, the Ravens would be the number 1 seed. And then you would have the Dolphins, who are 9-4, hosting the Colts, who are 7-6. You'd have the Chiefs, who are 8-5, hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 7-6. And you'd have the Jaguars, who are 8-5, hosting the Cleveland Browns. So your 7 playoff quarterbacks right now would be Lamar Jackson, Tua Tagovailoa, Patrick Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Flacco, depending on the health, either Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky, and Gardner Minshew. So teams that would not make it right now, that are still in contention: C.J. Stroud and the Texans, Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos, Jake Browning and the Cincinnati Bengals, and then we could draw the line in the sand with the Buffalo Bills, and after that, with Josh Allen being 7-6. Herbert now done for the season. The Raiders got no chance. The Jets, I know they're 5-8. They got no chance. Tennessee, even though they got a win last night, they have no chance as well. And the Patriots are already eliminated at 3-10. So when we just look in Circle of Trust in the AFC, like, I have to ask you right now, guys, and we'll do this exercise, because I have my 3 teams. Who are the 3 teams that you would trust the most inside the AFC? I think it is such a difficult question to answer, because you really don't trust any of these teams in the AFC. Objectively, the team I would trust the most is Baltimore. Phenomenal coach, really good defense. Even though I don't love their playmakers with Andrews going down, Zay Flowers done well this year in his rookie year. They have Lamar Jackson, and we know what Lamar Jackson is capable of in the regular season. He only has 1 postseason win, but he's still such a young player. And I think people forget, because we live in this instant result society now, there's been a lot of players in the history of the league that went through some really bad playoff moments before they started to win. Whether that was John Elway, who didn't win a Super Bowl, ended up winning 2 towards the end of his career. Peyton Manning, for years, got destroyed by the Patriots. I remember the 4-interception game that he had, 3 to Ty Law and 1, I believe it was, to Rodney Harrison. There were big choke job and big laying an egg performances by the Sheriff, number 18, before he finally got 1 Super Bowl. And then in his last year of his career, basically got carried as the quarterback of the Denver Broncos with that great defense. So there are quarterbacks where it takes a while before they get to the top of the mountain. And I've used this analogy before with Lamar Jackson. Lamar reminds me a lot like Giannis Antetokounmpo, where Lamar has an MVP, has playoff shortcomings. Giannis had 2 MVPs, had playoff shortcomings, and everyone said, Giannis can't win in Milwaukee. Giannis will never win a championship. And he ended up winning a championship. So I could see that happening with Lamar, and the difference between Lamar and Giannis, and I do think Giannis in his sport is better than what Lamar is in his sport, even though both are extremely successful and awesome talents to watch. Lamar's margin of error is slimmer than Giannis. Because for Giannis, you could lose 3 games in a series and still find a way to advance. In the NFL, it's what makes it so fun in the playoff format. It's 1 game. You win, you move on. You lose, you go home. So right now, from coaching history, defensive history, quarterback history, and then how it's translating into the 2023 season, the Ravens have to be the team that you trust the most in the AFC. And before the year, there were a lot of predictions that the Ravens wouldn't even make the playoffs because we didn't know what this new offense was going to look like and how loaded, right? That was the other take that everyone got wrong. Oh, this AFC, it's going to be the best year that we've ever seen out of the AFC. 10, 11 wins may not even make the playoffs. Right now, when we look at the playoffs, 10 wins may not make the playoffs, but it's not like it's going to be a strong pool of teams with 10 wins where you go, man, Joe Burrow or Aaron Rodgers, I know both are hurt, were left out of the playoff field. Like, we're looking at the wild card teams right now. Who would have had before the season started? The Browns, the Steelers, and the Colts as your 3 wild card team. That's what it basically is. But there's a legit chance of all 3 of those teams being the wild card. Like, the Steelers just lost to the Patriots, for crying out loud. And right now they would still be a wild card team. The Steelers haven't played an ounce of offense all season, and they still have 7 wins. The Browns just pulled Joe Flacco off the couch. They have 8 wins. And the Colts, Minshew Mania, with 7 wins. So you look around the AFC. Let's go around the room here. I'll save my 3 teams, and I already gave you one. It's the Ravens. Who are the 3 teams you trust the most to get to the Super Bowl in the AFC, whether they're in or out of the playoffs right now? Pat?
Number 1 is the Chiefs, until proven otherwise. Yes, absolutely. I don't care how poorly they're playing right now. I don't care how bad the offense has been. I know that when the chips are on the line and in January, Patrick Mahomes is going to deliver, Travis Kelce is going to deliver, Andy Reid is going to deliver. That on top of the defense.
Well, do we know that about Andy? Because Andy, for a very long time, was not able to win the big games when he was in Philadelphia. And now he's won 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, and he's been to 3 of them. So this current dynamic, him coaching the Kansas City Chiefs, they're there basically every single year. And the defense, this is the big thing. The defense is as good as it's ever been under Steve Spagnuolo. So the fact that the defense is actually playing well and they're not relying on the offense to score 30 points a game, it's the offense that is the problem. I'm going to trust that they'll figure that out by January. They're the team I trust above else. They're my pick as of now to get to the Super Bowl in the AFC.
2 and 3?
What?
Who's your 2nd and 3rd team?
Yeah, it's tough. There's not a whole lot of teams to put a lot of faith in. I would have to go number 2 would be the Miami Dolphins.
Wow, even after last night, without Tyreek Hill, Tua Tagovailoa looked horrible. So you go the the Chiefs 1,
I would go the Dolphins 2.
Oh. You're not taking the Ravens?
No, I don't trust them.
They're 10 and 3.
I understand. But they run into they seemingly run into a bad matchup every postseason where it's a team that, can take away Lamar's legs. And the years past, Lamar's been hurt, so you're relying on him. You're trusting that he stays healthy and that it's not.
Sounds like Boyle's a hater.
And that's not. I'm not a hater. I have
I don't
nothing
know.
against the Ravens. They just prove every year they're not a real contender. They're a pretender. They're a good regular season team. I would trust the Buffalo Bills more than the Baltimore Ravens. I would put them at 3.
Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3. Boyle goes. I still can't believe you kept the Ravens off the list, but you go Chiefs 1, Dolphins 2, and then the Bills 3. Stu, the 3 teams you trust the most in the AFC are?
Definitely the Ravens 1.
Mm-hmm.
Just right now, I trust them the most. 2, I'll still go with the Chiefs just because of Mahomes and Reed. And, Mahomes gets hot, pulls some games out of his backside. I think, he could definitely be – Chiefs could definitely be in the Super Bowl again. 3 is a tough one. I'll go Bills. I'm very hesitant to go Bills, but I think the Bills right now are that for me. I guess a sneaky one that I actually thought of was the Broncos. Just based on how they've played lately, they've actually looked a lot better. So we'll see. But those are I don't trust the Dolphins.
But this illustrates the point how week to week we are in the NFL.
It's crazy.
2 weeks ago, the Broncos, even after having a 5-game win streak come to a close, they lost to the Texans. And then the week later, the Broncos get a victory, and now it's like, oh, maybe the Broncos
They're
are
back.
a little bit of a dark horse.
Russ is back.
After they started year 1-5. All righty, here's who I go with. Number 1, it's the Ravens. The Ravens have been the best team in the AFC for the majority of this season, and Lamar Jackson is due. Lamar Jackson doesn't get to the Super Bowl this year in the AFC. You're going to start to wonder, will he ever get to the Super Bowl out of the AFC? And that would be the first time in his career where I think that question can legitimately be raised and it not be too premature. Number 2, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. To Pat's point, yeah, Mahomes was bitching after the game. Andy Reid was crying after the game. That defense for most of the season has played well. And offensively, they've been god-awful. But come playoff time, they will always have a chance. They will always spark fear in their opponents because of 15 to 87. And then 3, and both of you guys mentioned this team, and I thought this was going to be a little bit of a hot take. But the Buffalo Bills beat the Cowboys this weekend. I think the Buffalo Bills are back in the circle of trust. I think the Buffalo Bills, if they get a victory this weekend against the Cowboys, which, by the way, I think they will, they go to 8-6, they have new life. And they go from a team that was disappointing, down and out, still have problems defensively, still don't love McDermott, but in a year where the AFC is so wide open, you may need to go back to Bills football the last few years in a way that we tried to deviate from, and you asked Josh Allen, 17, to do everything and to carry you. And you may not have to be a great team this year in the AFC with what we've seen through the first 14 weeks of the season to get to the Super Bowl. But they win that game against the Cowboys. They go to 8 wins. They play the Chargers, who now are starting Easton Stick. They go to the Patriots, who are starting Bailey Zappi. And then the final week of the season, they would have the Miami Dolphins, who, oh yeah, by the way, they beat 48-20 back in week 4 or 5 of the season. Buffalo would be the 3rd team I trust the most. So number 1, I would go with the Ravens. Number 2, Kansas City. How about those Chiefs? And then in at number 3, the Buffalo Bills, potentially back in the circle of trust of yours truly.
So you think me leaving the Ravens off is egregious, but you leave the Dolphins off because they lost last night?
No, I leave the Dolphins off because they lost to the Eagles. They lost to the Chiefs. And they don't have a great win this year. And, oh, yeah, by the way, the Bills smothered them earlier this year. And Miami only has 1 victory right now against a team that is currently above 500. And it was that victory up against the Broncos when the Broncos weren't even that good of a team to start the season. I'm not saying Miami's a bad team. I'm not saying Miami is a down in the dumps kind of team. Like, Miami is a really good team. But I just don't trust them to go find the way to win 3 games in the playoffs to go to a Super Bowl. And I would trust the more experienced team, a team that struggled a little bit this year in Buffalo, to maybe get hot towards the end of the season. And it would kind of be fitting if Buffalo got to the Super Bowl this year, because the AFC, it's been tough, maybe outside of the Ravens, to really latch on and enjoy a team this year and say that this team's dominant, this team's going to be a force. So what I'm saying is, it wouldn't shock me this year. And it could maybe be, you throw a few dollars down, a few shekels down, and see what happens on a long shot. You got to give me a long shot with all these quarterbacks that are down and Allen's still standing, and we know he has playoff experience, some good moments, some bad moments. I could see them getting hot. I could see them going, Who would have thought when the Packers won a Super Bowl as a 6 seed that in the beginning of December, mid-December, they were going to go on this run? But teams that get hot late in the season, then you got to go win 3-4 more games, and the next thing you know, you're holding a shiny Lombardi. Now, from this conversation, whoever gets out of the NFC, cough, cough, the 49ers, cough, cough, the Cowboys, cough, cough, the Eagles, whoever does, you better win the Super Bowl this year. Because the AFC, you don't feel great, really, about any of these teams to the conversation that we just had. It is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Who's in your circle of trust? If I only give you 3 teams the rest of the way in the AFC, we'll come on back with a little overreaction, proper reaction.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Another NFL week is complete, which means it's another week to freak out about your favorite team. Which takes are truly crazy.
But sometimes a game can be so bad, it's almost good. You know what I'm saying? No.
And which are so crazy, they might be right.
He's 6'5", he's 245 pounds. He's probably a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end.
Zach lets you know in this week's edition of Overreaction or Proper Reaction.
Alrighty, Tuesday off of week 14 of the NFL season as we inch closer and closer to week 15. And my, oh my, Al Michaels, you know, he's not going to do the playoff game this year for NBC. I think they get like 2 playoff games. That was announced today. It's Noah Eagle, and is it Todd Blackledge, I believe it was, who's going to be doing the game, which they do the Big Ten games, and they're a really good booth. But, man, for Al Michaels, that's unfortunate news for him because, you know, he's a legendary broadcaster, and he still loves to do these games, and one of the best to ever do it. But these Thursday night games, people have been killing his energy, but what has he had to be excited for? And on Thursday, now you get the Chargers with Easton Stick as their starting quarterback, with Justin Herbert getting surgery. He's done for the season. And the Raiders, what are the storylines there? You get Aiden O'Connell. Does Antonio Pierce have the job next year? That's a Thursday night football game. The only reason to watch it is if you got a little skin in the game. And if you are using one of the fine betting applications to put some money down. But outside of that, there's no reason to watch this game.
I will say this. When he blew that Christian Kirk game-winning touchdown for the Jaguars where he didn't basically said he went out of bounds, that was a bad job.
Yeah, but everyone has a snafu here or there.
A snafu like that, that's probably the biggest snafu of the year.
Yeah, but once you do you believe in miracles? Yes. It doesn't matter what happens after that.
So 40 years after that, you can milk and you can, mail in Thursday night broadcasts every week.
You had a great call, Malcolm Butler, interception in the Super Bowl. This is a creme de la creme broadcaster, but to your overall point, these are such highly coveted jobs, and it's so fun to do this for a living. There's so many announcers, though, that stick around too long. And, yeah, I would agree with you. It's probably time to hang it up. I don't want to be the person that says that, right? Because then people go, oh, you're ungrateful. You don't respect the history of announcing, blah, blah, blah. But what is Al Michaels? 80 years old? Right? He's got to be 80-something years old. It's 79. He turns, he'll turn 80 next November. It's probably time to wrap it up a little bit in your career. What are you eating, by the way? Is that rice pudding?
No. It is a Chobani Flip.
Oh, yogurt?
It's the strawberry cheesecake, red velvet cupcake.
Oh, it's like a happy birthday kind of yogurt for you.
Yeah, I suppose so. I'm a big red velvet guy.
Yeah, I like rice pudding. I don't know. Maybe that makes me sound like an old man.
It does, a little bit.
But it's tough when I'm in that supermarket. 2 things that I have a problem walking past these days.
Cream of wheat.
The 2 things that I have a tough time walking past are rice pudding. And then also, they have these balanced breakfasts, like circular items now. And it's like, it's peanuts, it's some cheese, and then there's like, I think some raisins in them all in one. That's delicious. So those are the 2 things. I know, that sounds pretty lame. You expect like a cookie, you expected like some ice cream, some gabagool.
After you said rice pudding, I thought you were going to go with Honey Nut Cheerios, rich in fiber.
Yeah. I was maybe thinking a little trail mix, too. Trail mix is a good snack.
You really are an old eater. You got old taste buds, man.
Yeah. I'm a big protein bar guy, too, these days.
Although I can't knock it. We went out to dinner a couple of weeks ago.
We had a good meal.
Fish, whole bronzino.
Big bronzino. Boyle, my favorite part was, because I'm Jewish, I'm also Italian. And Boyle, at this Mediterranean restaurant we went out to, they serve challah bread. He goes, oh, well, what's this fancy bread that they got at the table? And I had to basically bar mitzvah boil at the table and tell him about challah.
That was Jewish bread?
Yes, it's called challah.
I didn't know.
Yeah. All righty. What do we got cooking here, Stuart Kovacs?
All right. Well, we talked a lot about the NFL officiating yesterday, especially when it came down to Kadarius Toney's offside penalty. Well, Myles Garrett wasn't happy with the refs despite his Browns beating the Jaguars 31-27.
And Pat Boyle has too much yogurt in his mouth.
It was honestly awful. And the fact that they're letting them get away with hands to the face, holding, false starting. I know they called a couple, but damn, they could have called it all game. And the one that cost us, they're on the 2-yard line. I mean, respect to those guys. It's a hard job, but hell, we have a hard job as well. You can't make it harder by throwing holding and hands to the face out the rule book.
So overreaction or proper reaction, the officiating in the NFL is the worst that it's ever been.
I'm going to go overreaction. I think it's really putrid. But I do have some sympathy towards the refs because the athletes are bigger than ever and they move as quicker as ever as well. With all that being said, though, I would imagine the refereeing 10 years ago was probably just as bad. We just didn't have social media the way that we have it today. And everyone now, they slow things down and they try to illustrate a point. And just by the looks of something, you may think that person is right. Like Kadarius Toney the other day. People go, oh, he checked with the officials. Here's the clip. He pointed to the official. But even Andy Reid admitted that Kadarius Toney didn't check with the official. So there's ways to slow things down and to give you a still image and to make it look like your argument's being crafted. And it still may not make you right. So the officiating is bad. But I don't know if it's that much different than 10 years ago outside of now we have these dopey TV refs that analyze everything and try to be at these know-it-alls. And then now you have a play happen in live time, and then 3 hours later, someone slows it down, and they make the thing all go viral. That highlights a potential mistake. So I would go overreaction on you saying the officiating is in the NFL is the worst it's ever been.
All right, after wins by the Jets, Giants, and Titans this week, the Raiders have sneakily jumped up the draft board, and if the season would end today, they would pick 6, behind only the Bears, by the Panthers, the Patriots, Cardinals, Commanders, and Bears again. Now, after Thursday's match against the Chargers this coming week, which you mentioned earlier, they finished out with the Chiefs, Colts, and Broncos, all teams that are in the playoffs or in the playoff picture. So overreaction or proper reaction, the Raiders should purposely lose out to get a higher pick so they can draft a quarterback.
I'm going to go overreaction. Usually I would go proper reaction here. But maybe what could be the best thing for this franchise moving forward and not a desirable spot outside of the team just being in Las Vegas is finding their next head coach. And Antonio Pierce, I don't know if he will or won't be the guy, right? Bisaccia led them to the playoffs and still didn't get the full-time job last time they had an interim head coach, and they ended up bringing in Josh McDaniels. But these guys like Antonio Pierce, and I think they should play hard down the stretch for Antonio Pierce and not try to intentionally lose games and make this a difficult decision for Mark Davis. So when you say the Raiders should purposely lose out to get a higher draft pick so they can draft a QB, for this team, I will go overreaction because you also have to find a new head coach.
Since Kirk Cousins had his season-ending Achilles injury, the Vikings have gone 3-2, but only have one offensive touchdown in the last 2 weeks. And replacement quarterback Josh Dobbs was yanked out of Sunday's game against the Raiders, and the Vikings have made another quarterback change going into this coming week. Cousins is an unrestricted free agent this spring, so overreaction or proper reaction, the Vikings need to re-sign Cousins this offseason.
Yeah, I think when he went down, a lot of us thought, alrighty, that's it for Kirk Cousins. He'll go elsewhere. And now you see what life is like without Kirk Cousins, and it makes you appreciate him even more. Because it's one thing to say Kirk is just a good quarterback and he's not going to win you a Super Bowl. But what are you going to do with the young core, with Addison, with Justin Jefferson, who's been in and out of the lineup, but we know when healthy, he's one of the best wide receivers, if not the best wide receiver in the league. What are you going to do in the next 2 years? And it's not just easy. Oh, you get rid of a quarterback and then you find a quarterback. Like, they're not going to be in worse enough position to get one in the draft. Maybe they move up. We've seen teams like the Bills and the Chiefs do that to go get Mahomes and Josh Allen. So I would probably say, without an obvious name out there, probably Kyler Murray not getting traded, no one else that really resonates with you, that you maybe go another 1-year deal or you dress up a 3-year deal with some outs in it to continue to bring back Kirk Cousins, even coming off that Achilles injury. So you say the Vikings need to re-sign Kirk Cousins this offseason? I go proper reaction.
Now, sticking in the NFC North, the Bears have won 3 out of 4 and sneakily have a chance at the playoffs and end games with the Browns, Cardinals, Falcons, and Packers. While appearing on 670 to score in Chicago yesterday, wide receiver DJ Moore had this to say.
Do you feel like you're as good as any team in the division right now?
For sure. Why, it would be no reason not to. Right now, what are we, 2-3 in the division, I want to say? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we still got to play the Packers at the end. So, we feel pretty good. And then by then, we hopefully be 3-3 in the division. And like I said, our plan is to win out. We're just going to take it one game at a time. And hopefully the chips fall where we want to on the side of being 9-8 at the end of the season and making that run.
So overreaction or proper reaction, the Bears are as good as the Lions, Packers, and Vikings.
So they've split in recent weeks with the Detroit Lions. They have also split with the Minnesota Vikings, and they lost to Green Bay back in week 1. As DJ Moore said, they have Green Bay the final week of the season, and they play Cleveland, Arizona, and Atlanta. So not a terrible schedule, but Cleveland's a solid team. Arizona stinks, but Kyler Murray's giving them a little life. Falcons are up and down, and the Packers are up and down. But the teams that I trust in that division, yeah, I would still say that's an overreaction because I know that they just beat the Lions, but I still trust the Lions more. The Packers, I think it's close. I'll put it this way. Rest of the way, I do trust the Bears more than the Vikings. But all three of them, no, I think that's an overreaction.
All right, the NFC South is wide open right now. Aside from the one-win Panthers, the Bucs, Falcons, and Saints are all in striking distance of a playoff spot, each at 6 and 7. The Bucs currently hold the tiebreakers against both Atlanta and New Orleans and finish out with the Packers, Jags, Saints, and Panthers the rest of the season. So overreaction or proper reaction, the Bucs will win the NFC South.
You would think because they have that championship DNA, even though Brady's no longer in the organization, but a lot of guys still in that defense that were there offensively. You have one of the more underrated and still all-time great wide receivers in Mike Evans, if that ever makes sense, because every year in the league he's had over 1,000 yards. He's a surefire Hall of Famer, and I know the wide receivers do get complicated. Even though the Falcons, I don't love their coach and I don't love their quarterback, I'm going to trust their run game and their playmaking ability with guys like Drake London and Bijan Robinson and also Tyler Algier and a defense that's improved under a new defensive coordinator. The Falcons were my pick before the year, so I'm not going to jump off the ship right now. But it is going to be a limp to the finish line, or maybe a crawl to the finish line for whoever does win this division, because those three teams that you just mentioned, they all stink. So the Bucs will win the NFC South. I'm going to go overreaction. I'll stick with my preseason pick.
All right, and last one. Don't look now, but Russ and the Broncos are now 7-6 and winners of 6 of their last 7 games, with games remaining against the Patriots, Chargers, and Raiders. Overreaction or proper reaction, the Broncos will make the playoffs and win a playoff game this postseason.
So it's plausible that they can make the playoffs. Now, they have Detroit, they have the Patriots, they have the Chargers, they have the Raiders. So basically, their final tough game in the regular season is Detroit, and then you got 3 cupcakes. Doesn't mean you're going to win all of them, but you should if you're going to be a playoff team. So they can make the playoffs. But winning a playoff game, yeah, I'm not ready to go there. I will go overreaction on that one. That's a no from me, dog, as Randy Jackson used to say on American Idol. All righty. That's a little overreaction. Proper reaction. This is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll come on back. We will track the transfer portal. A little go big red, potentially making some big news. And one former ACC quarterback could be potentially going back to the ACC. We'll get into that next. Update time first. Here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, Riley Leonard is leaving Duke, we know that, but he has announced his future home, and it is in South Bend, Indiana, where Notre Dame getting a quarterback from the portal for the 2nd straight year after Sam Hartman had left Wake Forest. Now it's Duke's Riley Leonard that is set to finish his college career with the Fighting Irish. Justin Herbert's season is done after surgery to fix his broken finger, so Easton Stick gets the call the rest of the way for the 5-8 Chargers. The Vikings are on their 4th quarterback of the season, with Nick Mullins starting Saturday against the Bengals. Malik Cunningham and Lamar Jackson are reunited. The Ravens have signed the former Louisville teammate off the Patriots practice squad. The Celtics have the best record in the East, and a win tonight over the Cavaliers would tie them with the idle Timberwolves for the best record in the league. Boston has yet to lose a home game this year. They're a perfect 10-0 at TD Garden. Cleveland lost last night to the Magic after 3 straight wins. The Lakers, fresh off their in-season tournament championship, are back at it tonight in Dallas. They've won 11 of their last 15. The Mavericks, like the Lakers, have won their last 3. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is Jim Rome. We are talking to the biggest names in all of sports in the jungle weekdays from 12 to 3 Eastern on CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio.
Maybe the team I've been most impressed with this year in the NFL. It's the Baltimore Ravens. Going into the year, I thought the Ravens' apex would just be making the playoffs. But in 2 of the last 3 weeks, we've seen the Ravens go up against a very good Lions team and a very good Seahawks team. And neither of those games were close. And you have Lamar, who is dominant. They plug and play whoever they want at the running back position. That Ravens team is definitely a Super Bowl contender.
This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
And this portion of the show is brought to you by Wesley Financial. Stuck in a timeshare and want out? Contact Wesley Financial Group now and get a free timeshare exit information kit at wesleyfinancialgroup.com. So last week, December 5th, I put out some transfer portal predictions. I made 5 of them. I had Dylan Gabriel going to Oregon. That hits. I had Riley Leonard going to Pat Boyle's Notre Dame Fighting Irish. That hits today. And then the other 3 pending predictions were DJ Uiagalelei going to Florida State, Cam Ward going to Ohio State, and Kyle McCord going to Nebraska. Now, if you cover the transfer portal, it seems likely that McCord's going to wind up to Nebraska. More on that in just a second. DJ Uiagalelei is taking an official visit this weekend to Florida State. So that is somewhat intriguing. And then Cam Ward, I saw he's taking a visit to Miami. You heard a lot about Cam Ward to Ohio State last week, and then you saw that Kyle McCord enter the transfer portal. And then since, you haven't really heard much of Cam Ward going to Ohio State. And out of the quarterbacks that are still available, Ward, Uiagalelei, and McCord, I think Ward should be the most highly sought after. But Cam Ward winds up in Miami. Like, let's just say that does happen, which I don't know if it is. That is a little underwhelming. Now, I like Mario Cristobal. Guy's a solid coach, was a really good coach at Oregon, and wanted to go back home and take the Miami job that he's been speculated about taking for years. I would have thought, though, that Cam Ward, if it is Miami, I don't know if it is or isn't, that he could have done better than Miami. But let's react to some of these. Dylan Gabriel going to Oregon. The rich just get richer. And now you're moving into a new era of Big Ten football. You get one more year of Dylan Gabriel. This, like when Bo Nix went to Oregon, that was after 3 underwhelming seasons at Auburn. We're outside of that first game up against Oregon, ironically, for Bo Nix. He never met the hype and the palpable buzz that was surrounding Bo Nix when he elected to be the quarterback of Auburn. Then he goes to Oregon the last 2 years. This dude's been a stud. I think he has like 90 total touchdowns or 89 total touchdowns in 2 years. And he just finished 3rd in the Heisman Trophy. So now you bring in Dylan Gabriel, who, even if you thought Bo Nix was a better quarterback than Dylan Gabriel, with what he's done at UCF and Oklahoma, is the more accomplished player than compared to when Bo Nix elected to go from Auburn to Oregon 2 years ago. So that is the perfect bridge the gap for one more year. And I think Gabriel only has one more year of eligibility. Who knows now? But, I think he played 3 years at UCF or 4 years at UCF, and then he just had 1 at Oklahoma. So he has one more year, and now he gets to go to Oregon, where you're just trying to keep that duck train moving in the right direction as you now go to a 12-team playoff, and you had a really good season under Dan Lanning. So I love the Dylan Gabriel move and decision. I think it's a perfect match for both sides. Riley Leonard to Notre Dame. I liked how Marcus Freeman last year got Sam Hartman. And Hartman and Audric Estime were a good 1-2 punch. I thought Notre Dame was going to be a little bit better than what they actually were. But they had such a deflating loss to Ohio State where Kyle McCord should have thrown a pick. and then Notre Dame dropped it late, and then Notre Dame couldn't get the right amount of men on the field in the final play of the game. They didn't have enough on the field, and that happened a few times in that game. And it's funny that Boyle's here today, not just to crap on Boyle, but I remember Boyle that week. Oh, here come the Irish, Notre Dame, we're back, we're this, we're that, oh, we're going to crush Ohio State. And I was like, okay, I could ride the Boyle bandwagon here. I'm down to see a Notre Dame victory. And then crickets from Pat Boyle after Notre Dame lost. But my reaction now on Riley Leonard, I think it's a move based off potential. And potential means you haven't done it yet. 2 years ago, he had a really good season at Duke. He's an athletic quarterback. But last year, he had some injuries. There was some up and down play when he was on the field. It is a downgrade from what you had in Sam Hartman. But if he could get back to that 2022 version of Riley Leonard, it's someone that, it's better than doing nothing for Notre Dame and just keeping whatever you had on the roster. And it's someone that I think you could, you're buying right now at not the greatest point for Riley Leonard, but maybe at the end of this year, he does impress you and gets back in a healthy version back to 2022, Boyle.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to have to beef up the offensive line. They're going to have another left tackle, Joe Alt, who's an absolute stud.
Their line is incredible.
Going to go top 10 in the NFL draft, so they've got to beef up the offensive line. The defense has to be the defense from, the Ohio State game in those last couple of games.
Yeah.
And, like how they played against Caleb Williams and USC. And then Riley Leonard's going to have to be, the Riley Leonard from 2022 with Duke. When you and I were talking just before this break, where he threw 20 touchdowns, threw for basically 3,000 yards, ran 13 as well. So he's going to have to use his legs like Sam Hartman couldn't this year, because no matter, whatever Notre Dame brings in from a wide receiver core standpoint or what guys they get from the transfer portal,
quarterback going to have to make some plays on his own.
Chances are they're not going to have the studs like Ohio State does in the receiving core, or Alabama or Georgia. So he's going to have to make some plays with his legs. And I think he'll be able to do that like Notre Dame quarterbacks haven't the last couple of years. But the one good thing is now 12 teams get into this joke college football playoff. So
yeah, I'm with you.
If Notre Dame goes 11-1, maybe 10-2 with their
even
schedule,
2 losses, they'll get in. The brand of Notre Dame will get you in.
They'll have a chance, because I'm looking at their schedule next week. It's actually the weakest it's been in quite some time.
Okay.
Their toughest games are like USC, Florida State, and A&M.
All righty, so there's the Notre Dame part. If DJ Uiagalelei goes to Florida State, I would love it for Mike Norvell. Good replacement for Jordan Travis. But also, you have the Clemson eventual battle against Florida State, where some people believe that DJ Uiagalelei not reaching his full potential at Clemson was more so on a bad offensive line, was more so on the uncreative play calling with Clemson for all those years, and Dabo Swinney messing it up more than it was actually DJ Uiagalelei. He did a nice job at Oregon State this year. Unfortunately, though, he lost his coach because Oregon State had really no place and no home. And then the next thing you know, Jonathan Smith is at Michigan State, so I understand DJU transferring. But how about the Nebraska Cornhuskers? A little go big red rumors last night. Now, I've been all over Kyle McCord going there. Kyle McCord's a fine quarterback. Heck, Nebraska would need someone like Kyle McCord. I watched a lot of Cornhuskers football this year. Their defense was sensational. Their offense, it was almost as if they had a big jar of popcorn before every game, and the offense would just eat that buttery popcorn and have it all over their fingers, because I've never seen a team throw more picks and fumble the way the Nebraska offense did this past year. So McCord would be an upgrade, especially if he comes with the highly touted wide receiver also from Ohio State in Julian Fleming. But how about these rumors last night with the number 1 QB, Dylan Raiola, whose father is a Nebraska Cornhusker legendary offensive lineman, and his uncle was the one leftover that they brought over from the old Scott Frost staff, and they just gave him a new deal. And Dylan, last year, he committed to Georgia, and now there's a lot of predictions that he's going to flip and land to Nebraska. And I went to the Nebraska-Michigan game this past year. The Nebraska fans are awesome. They deserve a winner. They deserve some actual offense to complement that great defense. And you may be cooking up those runzas or cooking up those steaks at Casa Bovina, and there could be some big celebrations coming in the next week or two if they get Kyle McCord, Julian Fleming, and then also they put the cherry on top of the sundae with Dylan Raiola. That would be amazing, because McCord will get you back to a bowl game, which they haven't been to for a long time. He'll get you back to being bowl eligible, but you could land the big fish of Dylan Raiola, which has been talked about for a while and speculated for a while. Man, you could start to have Nebraska humming once again, and those fans, they deserve it. And I saw Matt Rule, right, build Temple into a winner. You know, I was there when they beat Penn State for the first time in 74 years. They had College Game Day in Philly, went to 2 conference championship games in one of them. I saw what Matt Rule did at Baylor. This recruiting trail and these rumors, it's getting Nebraska fan very excited. And I hope Coach Rule finds a way to get it done. And if they could walk away with Raiola, McCord, and then also Fleming, my oh my. Nebraska fans are going to be chanting, "Go Big Red!" all off season long. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. There's a little transfer portal update. We're coming on back after these short messages.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
And away we go, hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. The Los Angeles Chargers season has been over for a while, but now it's like officially over because Justin Herbert's going to get surgery with the finger injury. He's out for the season, their final 4 weeks of the NFL season. But even if he was healthy and able to gut it out, the Chargers were going nowhere. And you look at disappointing teams in the NFL, the Chargers are one of the more disappointing teams in the NFL. Like, Buffalo has been disappointing. Maybe they're starting to get their act together, as we discussed. The Cincinnati Bengals, they're 7-6, but they've been without Joe Burrow, or Joe Burrow not at 100% for a big part of the season. You know, inside the AFC West, it's clearly the Chargers. NFC East, you can't really be disappointed with the Giants or the Commanders because we knew that neither of those teams were really all that entering the season. So you look around and it's like, all right, maybe Seattle in at 6-7, and let's see if they can turn around and make the playoffs. But the Chargers, we all knew going into this season that back in the offseason, Dean Spanos and the Spanos family were not going to fire Brandon Staley because he was 2 years into the job. Brandon Staley got to a playoff game last year and choked it, but he at least got to the playoffs. Like, it was one thing to miss the playoffs the first year and that terrible loss to the Raiders. All right, that's one thing. But then you make the playoffs and you have this big lead and you are a lock to win that game. You know, I'll never forget. I was in Centennial, Colorado. I was visiting my sister and my brother-in-law and my niece. And I'm watching that game. And you could use your imagination of what we may have been doing that was legal in Colorado, if you know what I'm saying. And I thought like someone was messing with the TV in front of me. I was laughing because it was so crazy to see the Chargers in that big spot. I know the Chargers always have that aura about them or that feeling about them. Oh, just wait, something's going to happen. But with how bad Trevor Lawrence played in that first half, with a bunch of interceptions, with how big a 20-point lead, nearly a 30-point lead, and they choked that game, that was the end for Brandon Staley right there. But the Chargers, they looked at it as, all right, he has 2 years left on his contract. You know, I know everyone trashes him as a head coach. He's too aggressive and he makes some idiotic decisions. But, you know, we just made the playoffs. So you go from 9-8 to 10-7. But still, even being 10-7 was underwhelming for the Chargers. Because the Chargers have a top 10 quarterback on paper. You have, at the time, 2 really good wide receivers in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I know Williams is hurt this year. You had Austin Eckler the last 2 years. I know he's not playing great this year. He's playing at a great level. And yeah, there was injuries on the defensive side of the ball. But you have Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, and Derwin James. And this offseason, you added in Quentin Johnston, the wide receiver out of TCU. So there's a lot of talent there. You know, they've drafted on the offensive line. with guys like Zion Johnson and Rashawn Slater. I know not everyone's been able to stay healthy, but you can't tell me right now that this team should be 5-8. I don't care. Like, right, Anthony Gallo, who runs around this office, and he's like a big Broncos fan. There's no one in the world that hates the Chargers more than him. Every year, with that big baritone voice and that burly-looking man with that long beard that he has, he just trashes the Chargers. But he's right. Because you can't deny the talent on this team. But they don't have the right coach. And whether it was Phillip Rivers, Antonio Gates, LaDainian Tomlinson, and Sean Merriman, this has been now 20-something years of the Chargers having so much talent, and they don't find a way to get the job done. Like, you go back, what year? It was 2006. The Chargers were like 14-2 in the regular season. You know, Sean Merriman joins us a bunch in studio whenever he sits to the right of me. Even though I love this game, I could still sense the pain from him about that game. They went up against the Patriots in the second round of the playoffs. And they were home. And they had the Patriots beat. Tom Brady threw a pick. And then whoever made the pick was running it back. And Troy Brown popped out the football. And the Patriots got the ball back. The Chargers lose that game. Right? You had Vince Wilfork going to the locker room. I think it was Roosevelt Colvin. They were doing the, that's a throwback name, right? Stu even just like, oh, that's a throwback name. And you had the lights out dance. All the Patriots doing lights out dance. And you had LT at the podium, and I like LT. And LT was like, you know, it's a classless organization. And he's crying. And it starts with their coach to do the Sean Merriman dance. But that was another team. And that was another great Chargers team that had the talent. And they couldn't get the job done in a big game. You know, and I get it. Hey, the Patriots could have just been your kryptonite. And it was the Patriots' final Super Bowl with Brady. That was the 2019 regular season. That playoff round, I was there, divisional round weekend in Foxborough. You couldn't find a soul leading up to that game that was picking the Patriots. And the Chargers, they came off that win up against the Ravens. It was the game where the round prior, the Ravens fans were calling for Lamar Jackson to get benched in the playoff game and go back to Joe Flacco. The Chargers end up winning. They're looking like a good team. They have Phillip Rivers. One more run. Here they come. You got Keenan Allen. You got Bosa. Who's the other rusher? Melvin Ingram, I think it was. You had him as well. Like, you had a good team. And a 1 o'clock game in Foxborough. I think it was that Sunday. I was at the game, too. And maybe it's Saturday. I forget what it was. It was Saturday or Sunday. But it was the first game, whether it was 4:25 or it was 1 o'clock. And I remember sitting in this studio when I was on from 2 to 6 a.m. Eastern. And here's a throwback name. James Graceffo was screening the phone calls. And he hates the Patriots. Hates them. Big-time Jet fan. And he's going nuts. I'm doing a show. And there's nothing more distracting as a host when you're doing a show and you look across the glass and the producer's doing something. And I see James is slamming the phone as miserable as could be. He's yelling. Dude, I thought this dude was going to explode. Like, I thought his head was going to pop and he was going to be dead on the spot. And he's going nuts. I walk in. I go, dude, you're red. You're orange. You're changing colors. What's up with you, Graceffo? He goes, this moron from Boston's on the line. He's telling me the Patriots are going to win the game by 2 touchdowns. And I'm yelling at him like, do you even watch football? He's going nuts. And I said, James, I go, you've seen this story before. You know they're going to win. I'm not saying they're going to win the game by 2 touchdowns, but they're going to win this game. And he goes, oh, you massholes. And I'm not even from Massachusetts, but I'm a Patriot fan. So he's just going nuts. Nuts, nuts, nuts. Stu thought he was going to have to dump that for a second. I said Mass in front of that, just to be clear. And he's going berserk. And the Patriots ended up winning the game. They blew him out. The game wasn't even close. I put my feet up in the 300 section at Gillette Stadium and watched the second half in a very comfortable way with a few adult beverages. But that's the Chargers. And here's the difference with the Chargers this year compared to all those other years. At least they were there. At least they were in the dance. At least they were invited to the prom. And even though if you were an ugly-looking dude, you at least thought to yourself, oh, maybe we got a chance to go home with the prom queen. Like, that was the Chargers. You know, they walk into the dance. Anything could happen. You know, not even an unattractive team. They'd always be dancing with a few people. And just when you think you're ready to close and go home, something would happen with the Chargers. So the Chargers this year, they on paper have the looks of a really good team. But they're not even going to get the invite. They're not even going to get a ticket. Not even going to get considered to go into the dance. And that's a reflection on the coaching staff. Because I don't want to put words in his mouth, but we've had Austin Eckler on this show a bunch. And Austin Eckler, I love him. But anytime he would talk positively about Brandon Staley on the air, I just would not believe what he's saying. And I think a lot of those guys heard the concerns about Staley, also had those moments where they're like, what the heck is this guy doing with these analytics? And he never just trusts his gut, and he never understands football. And they were like, oh, but we won 10 games. We got to the playoffs. Yeah, we had this demoralizing defeat, so we understand him coming back. But when you have those feelings for the first 2 years, or even though they had 9 wins and 10 wins, and it's getting dressed up as, okay, they're moving in the right direction, you could buy in, or you could elongate understanding maybe if this guy could be the guy or not. But with that being said, there's always that doubt. And when bleep hits the fan like it has this year, you start to get some of the true feelings of people come out. And people start to say, man, we were right, even though we were fooled, and even though we were doubted, even though we were told we were crazy. And then people start to quit. And I'm not accusing an individual player on this team of quitting, but there has, I'm not by name, I don't know who it is. But there got to be more than a few guys that already checked out and realizing we got so much talent. They're wasting this with the Chargers. Now you know Herbert's done for the year. Staley stinks as a coach. It's embarrassing. If I was running the Chargers, and I've said this on the air, I would have fired him after the Kansas City game. I would have fired him after that Kansas City game when they lost 31-17. And that was going back to week 7. Because they started off the season 0-2. Their 2 wins to get them to 2-2 were, if you remember, the Vikings and the Raiders. In both those games, they should have lost. Because he was a dope backed up and inside his own 35-yard line, and in both games, back-to-back weeks. I think one was at the 25 and then one was at the 35, in that realm. He goes for it. Gets denied on both of them. On 4th and 1, 4th and 2, and you had Kirk Cousins make the mistake and then Aiden O'Connell make the mistake. Now, Aiden O'Connell, Stu knows this, should have never thrown the football. You had Josh Jacobs at the damn 3-yard line. Hand the ball off to Josh Jacobs. But you had Kirk Cousins and Josh McDaniels / Aiden O'Connell make a mistake and let you off the hook to get you to 2-2. And people are like, we're going to the bye week, the Chargers have life. And then come out of the bye week, I know the Cowboys have turned into a good team and their season has aged well. But the Dallas Cowboys and the Chargers have been very similar, except the Dallas Cowboys are like the store brand version, like the nice version, and they do a little bit better before they choke. And like the Chargers were like the knockoff brand. Like that's how I kind of compare it. Like you have a fine brand that you know has a good reputation, but maybe it's not the best product. That's the Cowboys. And then you have like the knockoff version that you get for like $10 online, and you think you get this great deal, and then after 2 months you're like, oh, how the heck? Why the heck does this product don't work? And still in that game, both those teams were like the Spider-Man meme. They were pointing back and forth, and the Cowboys, when they were trying to lose the game, ended up winning the game. Then they go to Kansas City, and they lose 31-17. And 2-4. I would have fired them right there. I know people say, oh, but Zach, it's Kansas City this, blah, 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 blah. You can't beat Kansas City. When Kansas City was having a down year at that time, you got to get rid of the coach. You needed to change things because, quite frankly, they didn't impress me at all one time through their first 6 games of the year. But the Spanos family didn't do that, and now they're sitting here with a banged-up quarterback, unfortunately, who's done for the season, but it's already too late. They're 5-8. So I think one of these 3 names needs to be the head coach of the Chargers next year because I do believe the Chargers are an attractive job. You have to find a way to either get Bill Belichick, which is possible because Belichick needs talent. I still believe he could coach. He needs talent. He'd be perfect for the Chargers. I would then also say, hasn't signed a long-term deal yet with Michigan, but it looks like it's trending that way from some reports. Jim Harbaugh would be wonderful for the Chargers, and if not, Ben Johnson aligns. That's the hottest name out of all these offensive and defensive coordinators that haven't been head coaches yet. He's the hottest name on the market. So I would consider him. Maybe Dan Quinn gets a call for that job potentially. At least Dan Quinn got to a Super Bowl before he choked it. Chargers get to a Super Bowl, they'd be very happy. But how they enabled this Staley guy for this long, it's crazy to me. And now the nail's already been kind of in the coffin. But maybe you go, oh, maybe there's some naive thought that the body would just somehow wake up even though already after it's pronounced dead. But now with Herbert done for the season, you can hammer the nail in that coffin. Who is it? The Bengals radio network that goes, coffin nails, bam, 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 on their radio broadcast. Now you can put the nail in the coffin and hammer that thing shut for Brandon Staley, and they got to get this next hire right. Because if not, you're going to continue to have a team that has all this talent, and eventually they'll get older, and eventually some of these guys will break down, and you will miss your window with a guy in Justin Herbert, who I believe is an exceptional quarterback in this league. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227, at Zach Gelb on Instagram and Twitter. I guess I'd have to start calling it X. I don't know about you guys. Do you call it X now? When I watch shows or listen, I hear now a lot more people in the last few weeks refer to it as X, formerly known as Twitter, or just say X. Have we got to a point in society where we recognize Twitter now as X? Have I been wrong on this?
No, I still call it Twitter. I will always call it Twitter.
Okay.
Elon can call whatever the hell stupid letter number combination he wants to call it. I'm calling it Twitter.
Okay. Stu, where you at? X, Twitter?
I'm the same as Pat. I'm calling it Twitter forever.
Now, have you guys had a phone update recently?
No.
Okay. I had a phone update about a month ago.
Same here, I believe.
And the Bluebird.
It says X.
Yeah, the Bluebird is no more.
Yeah.
When you look at X, every time I look down on my phone, I think it's a naughty website, if you know what I'm saying. Like I look at it looks like a naughty website.
Porn?
Boyle, come on. Where it's 5:16 in the afternoon, getting ready for the evening, 2:16 in the West Coast. We got children in the car here right now. If that's where your dirty mind goes to, fine. I just said it looks like a dirty website. That's all I said. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. This is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll come on back. We'll update you on some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio as we get to a news brief.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
So the biggest story on yesterday's show was the Kansas City Chiefs crying over the officials just enforcing the rule. And my biggest gripe was Kansas City. And I get it, it's a teammate, so you don't want to throw your teammate under the bus. But whether it was Mahomes or Andy Reid, they didn't hold Kadarius Toney accountable. They just slammed the officials. How dare the officials not give us a warning? How dare the officials not give us a break? And they're going to call an offside, an offensive offside, and Mahomes threw a temper tantrum after the game. Andy Reid enabled that behavior and also had some arrogance to him as if he was entitled to the referees to give Kadarius Toney a warning. Well, yesterday Mahomes backtracked some of that. He was on Sports Radio 610 with Carrington Harrison, good friend of the show, also does weekend show here on CBS Sports Radio. Love Carrington. It is a weekly spot with Mahomes, and Mahomes apologized for the way that he handled his frustration with the officials after the game.
You know, obviously, you don't want to react that way. I care, man. I love it. I love this game. I love my teammates, and I want to go out there and put everything on the line to win. But obviously, can't do that. I mean, can't be that way towards officials or really anybody in life. So probably regret acting like that. But more than anything, I mean, I regretted the way I acted towards Josh after the game because he had nothing to do with it. And so I was still hot and emotional. But you can't do that, man. It's not a great example for kids watching the game. So I was more upset about that than I was about me on the sideline.
Man, I hate to say it. That's why he's so likable. Like, he acted the wrong way on the field. And I would rather prefer him to kind of keep the energy that he had, even though he was wrong, instead of walking it back the next day, even with how ludicrous I thought his actions were. But when he gives you the line, even though it makes me roll my eyes a little bit, it's not a good example for the kids. It's tough to say, oh, Mahomes is a jerk or Mahomes is a bad guy. And I think this was I don't think Mahomes is cocky or arrogant, but I do think that this is a humbling moment for Mahomes because he's been the rock star of the league. Like, no one besides yesterday or Sunday outside of jealousy ever had a reason to dislike Mahomes. And then the way that he acted after the game, it was like, all right, it's one thing to yell at the officials, but then when you're shaking hands with Josh Allen, you're telling him it's like the worst call you've ever bleeping seen. And you're yelling at Josh Allen, or not yelling at him, but yelling about your frustration to the officials to Josh Allen. I thought it was low class. But then to quickly walk it back that way, yeah, you still wish you didn't do it, but it does make you say, okay, everyone realizes you're wrong. And I think for the first time in his career, he got a lot of pushback and a lot of negative things being said about the way that he handled that situation. And I think he realized, all right, everyone's telling me I'm wrong, so I was probably wrong on that. Here is Tua Tagovailoa acknowledging that the Miami Dolphins could have been better on Monday Night Football in a game that they ended up losing to Tennessee.
It's the NFL. Anything can happen. We got to do a better job finishing the game with the time that we had while we had the ball, not allowing their opposing team's offense to get that opportunity to go down and potentially score. It's a team sport. Can't blame one side, but I would say from an offensive standpoint, there's things that we could have done a lot better to not have gone through what we've gone through tonight.
Your offense is the reason why you lost the game. The defense got you a pick six. The defense also recovered a fumble. And then special teams also recovered a punt that was muffed. The offense, if it wasn't gifted great field position, wouldn't have scored 2 touchdowns. Both went to Raheem Mostert. And Tyreek Hill got hurt and was in and out of the lineup. And then you see why Tua Tagovailoa is a good quarterback, but not a great quarterback. And when he's asked to carry the team without Tyreek Hill, there's problems there. So that was on the offense last night. The line didn't play well, but even when they did hold up in protection, it looked like Tua Tagovailoa was scared last night. And that was a brutal offensive effort from the Dolphins. I know a lot of people are going to look back and they go, oh, but they're up 14 with 3 minutes to go, and you had a choke job. I understand that, but they never clicked in that game offensively. Here is Tyreek Hill on his injury that he suffered at the end of the first quarter.
It was a lot of pain, man. It sucked. Like when it actually happened, I've obviously been dealing with some ankle injuries this whole season, and when it happened, like my first reaction was like, man, my ankle gone. Then my adrenaline kicked in. I ran off the field. Then I sat for a while and got stiff.
Did you guys, by the way, see when he went down with the injury? Like, I think there's an easy way to help a teammate up. I don't know who the player was. I didn't catch it. I just saw it out of the corner of my eye when I was watching both games. It almost looked as if the teammate who was trying to help him up didn't realize how hurt he was, and he tried to throw him around as if Tyreek Hill was a rag doll. It was not a graceful way to go about trying to help the most important player on your team and someone that was hurt in Tyreek Hill. Let's go to Mike McDaniel. All righty, let's hear from Mike McDaniel, right? A beloved person, and now this is a really bad loss for him. Usually he makes a joke or two with dealing with the media. He's a quirky kind of guy, but he's coached his ass off the last 2 years. Let's hear from Mike McDaniel what went wrong.
It was a legitimate team loss. I think everybody had their hand in it. I don't think it was intentional. I don't think people went through the motions during the week. It was a really, really good week of practice, I thought. But you had a lot of yards given up in a short amount of time. You had a shorter field position, and you had an offense that went 3 and out.
I don't know why. Maybe it's because we're used to these like button-up coaches, these professional-sounding coaches. Whenever I hear Mike McDaniel speak, I still feel as if like I just don't get anything this guy's trying to say. Like, yeah, I understood. He was saying the team just did not perform well. I thought the effort was good throughout the week. But I always feel as if I'm on the outside of the inside joke with Mike McDaniel, and everyone else understands Mike McDaniel, and I just don't understand him. The guy's a good coach, though. What he's done last 2 years has been a really good coach. You got to give him credit to that. But I wonder when they face some adversity, how he's going to respond moving forward. Let's go to Matt LaFleur on Jordan Love and the offense's performance last night in a Packers loss to Tommy DeVito and the New York Football Giants.
For the most part, I thought, we were off in the pass game in general. It felt just missed a few throws here and there, which is going to happen. I thought he was pretty resilient in his approach in terms of just continuing to battle, and obviously threw a touchdown pass there at the end of the game. Had another one that, we didn't come down with. But all in all, consistently throughout the course of the game, it just was not good enough.
There were some ups, there were some downs. That's what happens when I know he's not a rookie quarterback, but a quarterback his first true year as a starter. Ultimately, when the game was on the line, Jordan Love drove the team down the field, converted, I think it was 2 third downs, and had a touchdown pass. So even with some good and some bad, he still found a way to give you the lead late. And then your offense quickly allowed Tommy DeVito to move the ball down the field and cook up some chicken cutlets to Randy Bullock, who's probably eating a few of those Mama DeVito cutlets. And Randy Bullock looking big as a kicker. And what is he wearing, number 45 or 46?
Yeah, it doesn't help him either. You're a fat kicker. You got to wear a single-digit number. You wear the double digits. They really stretch out. He looks stout, man.
Yeah. Sebastian Janikowski used to be a big boy.
11.
He was 11?
That's kind of a skinnying number.
Ones aren't good on a big guy. You will never see me in a jersey with the number 1 on it, even if it has another number with it. I just don't think 1 looks good on a tall or a big guy. And 0 also doesn't look good when you're a big fella as well.
What number looks good? 69?
On a big fella? Of course, Boyle has to go there. You give a mouse a cookie, he wants a glass of milk. Dun-dun-dun. On a big fella, 98, 99.
All right.
Good
so you got
number?
a problem with 69, but you have no problem with 99.
Nah, your joke was the first time. Let's not go back to the well. Let's not double down. I don't know. So Bullock's what, 45, 46?
45, I think.
Hey, that already looks out of place for a kicker. I thought he was more of a linebacker than a kicker last night. So the kicker has a little toughness to him, and then he hits the game-winning kick. The bottom line is, though, the defense got to find a way to make a stop there. And even through some of the shortcomings that the offense had in the game, they had a lead, and the defense let them down once again. Let's go to – yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, really, Randy Bullock looks like?
Who?
Looks like Tony Romo. If Tony Romo did that challenge that the owner from Papa John's, where he just ate their pizza every day for like 3 months, if Tony Romo did that, he would turn into Randy Bullock or Bullock.
You think he looks like Tony Romo?
He's got some Romo in him.
Wow.
You get his headshot from this year or whatever last year when he was on the Titans, and then you click on it and it puts the Giants jersey on him. Mm-hmm. He's got some Romo in him, no?
How much do you think he weighs?
240.
So he's listed at 210 right now.
That's a joke. I weigh 210.
Do you really?
Yes.
Stand up. Because you have some muscle to you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm 5'11".
And how tall is Randy Bullock?
He's got to be a chode then. He's got to be like 5'8".
We're in the afternoons. Relax, Boyle. He is
listed as 5'9".
5'9".
There you go.
You know what? If you put on shoulder pads,
I would look gigantic.
I would actually. You know what? I think you and Randy Bullock could be in the same weight class.
Get out of here, dude. Are you kidding me?
Maybe he's 220 max. 220.
He's 5'9". He's a whole 2 inches shorter.
Oh, you're 5'7"?
5'11".
Oh, you're not 5'11".
Yes, I am.
If you're 5'11", I think I'm 7'4".
Come on, dude.
5'11"?
I'm telling the truth because I didn't say I was 6 feet.
Yeah.
I'm telling the truth because I didn't.
Boyle's legit.
Because I didn't say I was 6 feet.
All right, Ack doesn't like to offend people, but Ack is also usually a good judge if someone's lying or not. You think he's 5'11"?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I would say I may have to get my tape measure out. I'd say you're more 5'10" than 5'11". But anyway, let's go to Brian Dayball. He praises Tommy DeVito.
You kind of watch your third game of over 100 quarterback rating. Made good decisions, took care of the ball. use him in the run game. We just keep developing him. He's improving. Still got stuff to work on, but like I said 2-3 times last week, I think he's a young player that's doing the right things, making the most of his opportunity. Earned the right to play today, and he earned the right to play the next week. Kid's done a good job.
He's got some Belichick in him, Dayball, where at least he gives you a quote, but you know that he's not going to try to give you too much when talking about the future of a player. I thought this was the most awkward exchange of the press conference, though. Here is Brian Daboll getting asked if he had the legendary DeVito family chicken cutlets. So the family before the game is serving 300 chicken cutlets in the parking lot to fans before you had Tommy DeVito go rock out MetLife Stadium last night and get that victory for the New York Giants. Here's an awkward exchange with the reporter and Brian Daboll.
Editors want to know, before I get to my actual question, since you love a food joke, have you had the DeVito family cutlets?
No.
He never brought them in. You never have tasted nothing. Okay.
No. I'm on a diet, Ryan.
Yeah, the chocolate chip cookies fit in there, Dabes.
I mean, come on now.
So that's got to be Ryan Dunleavy, because I know he covers the Giants. I know Ryan back when he was a beat reporter for Rutgers. So he's trying to get he's probably writing a story about the chicken cutlets, is my guess. I did not read any of Ryan's content today. So you're trying to get Daboll to say something about the chicken cutlets, and right away he goes, nope, never had them, which I guess is surprising to Ryan. So then he goes, what, you never had? He goes, I'm on a diet. And then he basically calls him a fat ass. I see you eating chocolate chip cookies all the time. Are those chocolate chip cookies in the diet? Now, I don't know the relationship that they have. He's there every day, so coach, reporter, they probably talk a decent amount. But that's a ballsy thing to say with a lot of people watching this press conference in a public setting. Hey, you're on a diet? Well, maybe his wife's forced him on a diet too. And maybe he has a secret stash in the office or in the facility of the chocolate chip cookies, and he just ratted out Brian Daboll for eating too many of those chocolate chip cookies. Now, here's my question. Does Randy Bullock have the secret stash of Brian Daboll's chocolate chip cookies as well?
Randy Bullock's got a Brinks truck of chocolate chip cookies.
He make it paid by chocolate chip cookies.
They're coming over by the boatload.
Will we get a Stephen A. Smith take on Randy's posture or Randy's physique like he did about Zion Williamson the other day? That was like we're having a little fun talking about Randy Bullock looking like a linebacker. Stephen A. going after Zion Williamson? He said that he ate the table at the buffet. Not just the buffet. He ate the table where the food was being served on. That was wild from Stephen A. Smith. Ain't wrong, though.
He's feeling himself.
Yeah. Well, he was also saying, I saw a belly move when he was at the free throw line. All righty, that's the news brief. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We will take a timeout. We'll come on back. We will talk more about Patrick Mahomes apologizing, and also a lot of quarterbacks injured this year. Who we believe in long-term in to have a little redemption story when they come on back. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Update time first. Here he is, the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flag.
Oh, it's been a tough year for starting quarterbacks, and Justin Herbert's season is over. He underwent surgery on his broken finger, so Easton Stick takes over for the remainder of the season. The Vikings are still in the playoff hunt. Despite being on their fourth quarterback, Josh Dobbs has been benched in favor of Nick Mullins. Malik Cunningham has been signed by the Ravens off the Patriots practice squad and is now reunited with former Louisville teammate Lamar Jackson. Riley Leonard is following Sam Hartman's lead. He's leaving the ACC for Notre Dame. The former Duke quarterback has 1 year of eligibility left, and he'll spend it in the blue and gold of the Fighting Irish. The Warriors have had a rough time since their last title. They're currently 10-12 in the season, and in Phoenix tonight, they're also under 500 on the road after struggling mightily last year away from home. Draymond Green not ready to write off a proud aging nucleus.
I think we got all the pieces that we need in order to win. You look at some of these games we're losing. Just got to tighten up, tighten up in the margins.
Kevin Durant will sit out tonight's game for Phoenix. The Celtics offer the best start of any team in the East at 16-5, fueled by an incredible home court advantage. Boston is 10-0 and looks to remain perfect against the Cavaliers tonight. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio's Hick and Night is your go-to December destination for the best sports talk on the radio. Don't forget, we're live 24/7 on social media, YouTube, SiriusXM Channel 158, and the free Odyssey app.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
So let's talk a little bit about the future of some quarterbacks that have been injured this year. Joe Burrow, done for the season. Kirk Cousins, done for the season. Anthony Richardson, done for the season. Deshaun Watson, Daniel Jones, Justin Herbert, all done for the season. And then Aaron Rodgers. I think he's done for the season, but then TMZ is talking about how he's not that far off from being cleared for game action, but who the heck knows? I would be shocked still if Aaron Rodgers plays this year. The only reason why he's playing is just to show that he's better than everybody else and look how quick he recovered. You already proved the point that you're back on the practice field and you're throwing the football. To go back with this team where the offensive line is a hot mess, and also you don't have a team that's going to make the playoffs, I don't see what the incentive would be other than to just give the middle finger to everybody and have everybody kiss your ass why Aaron Rodgers would play another snap this season. So let's look at the future of these QBs with the team that they're on and what we expect next season. Justin Herbert, I know he has a finger injury, and now he's done for the year, but he should be kissing the feet of whoever his new coach is, because instantly it would be better than Brandon Staley. Like, if we're in a spot next year at this time where we're talking about the new coach of the Chargers and they're worse than Brandon Staley, there is just no hope moving forward for the Los Angeles Chargers. Like, I still believe in Herbert. I still believe that the Chargers can get it right. And what I mean by get it right is be a consistent playoff team. I don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl. I'm not even going to say they're going to get to an AFC Championship game. But when you get rid of Staley and his incompetence, whoever you bring in, it's going to just be like an immediate exhale that's going to be let out and a deep breath that will be let out by these players. Like, you look at Joe Judge. Joe Judge, his first year with the Giants, he was praised, and then year number 2 was a disaster. But he was like a hard ass, a tough coach to play for, didn't know how to relate to human beings. And the roster didn't really much change from the last year of Joe Judge to what Brian Daboll had last year with the Giants, but the win total did, because it was a new life. It was a new jolt of energy that was brought to that organization, and players knew that they didn't have to deal with all that did come with the bad head coach. And look, the Giants last year, against all odds, made the playoffs and then got into the second round of the playoffs before losing to the Eagles. Aaron Rodgers, out for the season. I think Aaron Rodgers next year going to win Comeback Player of the Year. I know there's still a chance he'll come back this year, even though I don't think it's going to happen. But I do believe the Jets will be in the playoffs next year, and I believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to be Comeback Player of the Year. Daniel Jones. Man. How about this Tommy DeVito story? It is really special, but it's probably going to allow Daniel Jones to have another year as the quarterback of the Giants. I know they just gave him a new deal, but you will probably end up finding a way to see Daniel Jones starting next year because you're moving further and further away from position to go snag Jaden Daniels or go snag Caleb Williams or Drake May as well. Deshaun Watson, next year is an enormous year for Deshaun Watson because it's been a long time since we've seen Deshaun Watson play at a high level. And, like, you got to go back to, 2020 when they were losing all those games and didn't play 2021, was out for most of 2022 with the suspension, and then this year gets hurt. And when he got hurt, he just finally put together a good game. But Joe Flacco has come off the couch and had a great game last week. So for Deshaun Watson, Stefanski showed he could coach. We'll see if Nick Chubb is going to be back next year, and that's a big loss for him with the health problem. Where is he going to be now? 2 big injuries. But I don't want to hear any more excuses for Deshaun Watson. That team pays him too much money, all guaranteed. They give up too many draft picks. He's got to have a monster season next year, and I just don't believe in him anymore as a quarterback because it's been a long time since he was a top 7 quarterback, and he put up great stats that 2020 year, even when they only had 4 wins. But you're probably only going to be a good quarterback at best moving forward because it's been too many years since being a really great quarterback. Joe Burrow, as long as he gets protected, that team, and as he could stay healthy, that team is a Super Bowl contender. Kirk Cousins, when he got hurt, I thought that was it for him in Minnesota. Now I think he's going to be back with the Vikings, and they could have the looks of a playoff team once again with Jefferson and Addison. They mimic the playoffs this year. And then Anthony Richardson, I think the Anthony Richardson one is so exciting because he was playing really well before he suffered 2 injuries, and then one knocked him out for the season. But with Shane Steichen did a wonderful job with Jalen Hurts. Had a little bit of a carryover or crossing a pass with Justin Herbert with the Chargers, I believe. And early on, he was having success with Anthony Richardson, and now he's maybe leading a team to the playoffs that has barely had Jonathan Taylor and is starting Gardner Minshew. Now, I don't know if Richardson could put it together, but he has the right coaching, and I'm really curious to see when healthy what he could do next year. All righty, let's end the show on the phones, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Let's go to Mike in Baltimore next up on CBS Sports
how you doing,
Radio.
Chief?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike. What do you got?
Oh, what I got is this. With all this money that they're paying these NFL players, I mean, he's talking about just in our division, NFC North.
Yeah.
We're looking at almost $1 billion worth of quarterbacks.
Okay.
Okay? We're down to just one now. Okay? And I think the league's going to change because of this. I mean, half of these players that's supposed to be top physical specimen condition is not even conditioned to do a half a season.
So you think the quarterback salaries are going to go down?
I think so. If you got backup quarterbacks constantly getting into the postseason, getting them to the Super Bowl, I mean, the people, the fans, is going to eventually figure that out. I mean, the salaries keep rising on these quarterbacks, and the production of it is getting less and less.
Yeah, but how many of those teams are actually going to win a Super Bowl? For example, hold on, Mike. I'll let you finish. Like the Eagles lost Carson Wentz. They won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. The Giants lost Phil Simms. They won a Super Bowl with Jeff Hostetler. The Rams lost their quarterback, then won a Super Bowl with Kurt Warner. The Patriots, now they lost Drew Bledsoe. They won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady. But look at what Warner turned into. Look at what Brady turned into. Nick Foles only had really success for 2 seasons. And Hostetler wasn't overall this successfully great quarterback. So I look at it, I don't think the quarterbacks are going away because that search to find that great quarterback, and the last 20 years, most of the quarterbacks that have won have been all-time great quarterbacks, whether it was Brady, Manning, Mahomes, Breeze, Eli Manning as well. Like, usually you need a great Hall of Fame quarterback to win.
Okay. Then you got the last night game, to my disappointment, of Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins, right? One player, just one, was out.
Yeah, and that was Tyreek Hill. So your point, your point should be this. So your point should be this.
I'm not comparing anything. Hold on. I'm not comparing anything.
Okay.
But if you're a great quarterback,
but two is not a great quarterback.
Make that much of a difference in your production.
But that's the disconnect, and this is what your point should be. The good quarterbacks get paid like great quarterbacks. That's the problem with the system. And that's why when the good quarterbacks are making $40, $45 million a year, then what do you actually pay a great quarterback? But the NFL pays good quarterbacks great quarterback money. And I don't think, and Tua hasn't got a new deal yet, but Tua's not a great quarterback. He's a good quarterback, in my opinion. Let's go to, is this Francois, I believe, in Dallas next up? Sorry, your name was cut off on the screener. Francois, go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's my first time calling to your show, and I wanted to say one thing, but I'm going to say this in response to the last caller. You're absolutely right. I mean, the market for quarterbacks in the National Football League was made by the owners, not the players. So if the market says that you should make X, that's what you make.
Agreed. 100%. Great point.
Based on the owners that started it, right? So the caller's point is invalid. The other thing I want to say is I don't see why Patrick Mahomes started wetting the bed over a call that should have been made. You can't line up offside and expect the ref not to call it.
You know what it is, Francois? Because I don't think it's really his frustration with the official. It is more so that down deep he knows, even in a game where he does not have a great offense, they need everything to go right. And Kadarius Toney, and I hate to cut you off, but I'm out of time on the show today. Kadarius Toney making that mistake, I don't think his frustration was actually at the officials, even though he portrayed it that way. It was more so, we don't have the pieces this year to make life easier for him. And we've seen Brady win a bunch, and without the greatest wide receivers, Mahomes just did it last year, but he knows how